We are Brunel Design School at Brunel University London, ranked as one of the best schools to research and study design in the world. A school at the cutting edge of not only design for sustainability, additive manufacturing, and creative computing, but also conducting groundbreaking research in human-centered, inclusive, and digital design. The Additive Manufacturing and 4D Printing Research Group is equipped to enable researchers and academics pioneering research and innovation are at the core of the Brunel Digital Design Lab, focusing on design-led technology innovation through collaborations with academic and industrial partners worldwide. Within a large-scale AHRC-funded research project, Story Futures China, the potential of AR and VR in enhancing the visitor experience of museums and galleries is being explored in a cultural exchange between the UK and China. Not only that, there have been major steps towards the inclusive design of immersive reality and the metaverse. Through the EPSRC-funded projects, Inclusive Immersion, and towards an equitable social VR. Utilizing a range of tools that assist designers in understanding users, the research undertaken within the Inclusive Design Research Group is contributing to the launch of successful products to market, AI design for inclusion, and the development of companion robots for the third age. The UK-China Creative Industries Research and Innovation Hub project is amongst a great deal of far-reaching areas of research that are all underpinned by diversity, inclusion, and sustainability. We focus on three important axes: disable-able, old-young, and lay-professional. Ultimately, striving to cater and accommodate to different levels of expertise, abilities, and age via human-centered, accessible, and desirable design. Seeking the advancement of knowledge to better design solutions to address the most pressing environmental and social challenges, the Design for Sustainability Research Group strives to contribute to a better future. The group generates novel design theories, strategies, and methods to foster sustainability and circularity, in turn offering support to organizations and practitioners who wish to embed them into their own practices. With an extensive track record of projects, the research spans from designing circular products to taking inspiration from nature to address design challenges, shaping human behavior for environmental and socio-ethical purposes, supporting social innovation to address communities' challenges, through to exploring the ways in which design can support transformation towards sustainable socio-technical systems. With a passion and drive to bring ideas to life through cutting-edge technologies and research, the Brunel Design School strives to create sustainable products with the goal of making a positive impact in the world for a better future.
Thank you. That is a short video of the Brunel Design School's research groups. We have 5 research groups: inclusive design, design for sustainability, additive manufacturing and 4D printing, creative computing, and Brunel Digital Design Lab. The Brunel Design Research Centre was established recently, 2023, so we are in the first year of running. The aim, there are 2 aspects. Internally, Brunel Design Research Centre would like to enhance our research culture and also facilitate collaboration in research. Externally, we would like to improve our international profile and increase impact. So the directors of this center include me, Hua Dong, as a director, and we have Dr. Fabrizio Ceschin and Dr. Yujin Pei as co-directors. So the center's research, we could summarize it with three key aspects. One is inclusion, one is sustainability, and the last one is technology. I will talk about more on the inclusive design aspect, but a lot of research actually merge all these three aspects. Today, in the evening, actually, in the Museum of Design Zurich, they are launching a private view for design for all diversity as a norm. We actually have a piece of our design exhibited there as one of the few selected pieces around the world. So working with our collaborators, Dr. Yimei Dong from Jiangnan University in China, we have developed a toolkit for active aging. You can see some of the sample cards here. It is toolkits showing old people's resources and also have a detailed design guidance to support designers utilizing old people's existing resources and empower them through design. We also currently, there's an ongoing project supported by University of South California and Shanghai Jiao Tong University Institute of Cultural and Creative Industry on inclusive design for the aging population, exploiting the power of AI. The project aims to explore how AI can be utilized to inform and assist product design with a focus on designing for aging population. Dr. Wei Ning is the PI of this project. You can see the image is generated by AI. Another aspect of inclusive design is about people with disabilities. You know, aging and disability are two key aspects of inclusive design. For disability aspect, we have finished a project which is called Sustaining Inclusive Design Collaboration through Co-Design Platforms, or known as the SIDE program. That was a collaboration with Mimar Sinan Fars University in Turkey and Loughborough University in the UK. So you can see from this nicely illustrated cartoon by Dr. Abdul Salam Chifter, projects start with exploring opportunities between organizations and people with disabilities to identify an opportunity, and then designers were involved in the process for evaluating the concepts, and finally accessible product, inclusive product is created for the user groups, and that loop feedback is exploring, evaluating, and creating. So we've created a collaboration framework which integrating inclusive design in design education as a tool for capacity building for bottom-up social innovation. Through that project, we have developed a range of concepts covering all the aspects. You can see with the logos of our disability organization partners. For example, Six Doors Foundation for the Blind and the Spinal Cord Paralytics Association of Turkey. Students have been working with these organizations to develop concepts for different sectors. More recently, we have hosted a conference, and we are still in the process of delivering this AHRC Seed Fellowship. That is about international collaboration in the creative industries sector. For this project, we adopted a very inclusive process of engaging not only senior researchers, but also earlier career researchers. They co-design and co-deliver the outcomes. So important topics like EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion, responsible research and innovation, and also the health and well-being of early career researchers and practitioners, and inclusivity in metaverse were all explored through the working group projects. As a center, we also host international visits. Recently, we hosted Professor Amaresh Chakrabarti from India Institute of Science. Now I'm going to briefly introduce some of the projects currently running with the EU. One of the projects is called MALTHA. So that is multi-material additive manufacturing for lightweight and thermal management. The PR is Dr. Yu Jinpei. This is a 4 million European Commission project with a very ambitious aim of combining carbon fiber polymers and metals in a single part with design for additive manufacturing to reduce the weight of the component. This project called SHEC-AM is a more educational research project. So it's about learning by sharing knowledge in design for additive manufacturing. This is a very nice example of combining inclusion, sustainability, technology all together. So the project has a specific focus towards the awareness of sustainability with content on life cycle assessment, environmental impact, and recycling of 3D printed parts. Teaching materials are created to be inclusively specifically for students with additional learning needs. This is another ongoing project which is called Stand for EU. 1 million PI is Dr. Yu Jinpei. It has 6 partners from 4 countries. This is to strengthen the links between research, innovation, and standardization to ensure that standardization is an integral part of the European research and innovation landscape. And within the scope of 4 main technological domains, which include additive manufacturing, welding, smart manufacturing, and the circular economy. So those are the projects currently running. Some are recently finished projects. So we have collaborators from the UK funding bodies, from the EU partners, and also internationally. Now I'm going to hand over to Dr. Fabrizio Ceschin, who is going to talk about design for sustainability projects. Over to you, Fabrizio.
Thank you very much, Hua, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Brunel Research Festival. I'm Fabrizio Ceschin. I lead the Design for Sustainability research group, and the aim of this group is to advance the theory and practice on how to develop solutions which can bring about sustainability benefits and can foster circular economy. And one of the key aspects is really about supporting organizations, industries, and practitioners in integrating design for sustainability thinking into their own activities and practice. So how can design research tackle the sustainability challenge? Well, there are different ways through which design can contribute to sustainability. First, at the material and manufacturing process level, design can support the development of innovative materials and manufacturing processes that are more sustainable. So, for example, if we take the mobility sector, Ford recently has reviewed all the polymeric components of their cars, trying to replace traditional plastics with bio-based, biodegradable, and/or recyclable plastics. Moving up, we can also contribute at the product level. So redesigning the entire product life cycle from the extraction of materials to manufacturing, distribution, use, and disposal, and trying to minimize the impacts of all these stages. And for example, you can see here an image of a concept car developed by Fiat, aimed at reducing energy consumption in use, but also facilitating the replacement of components to support maintenance and repair. Moving on beyond product, design can also play a role in terms of product service systems and circular business models. So this is essentially about looking at the integration of products and services and shifting away from individual products and looking at consumption models which go beyond the individual ownership of products. So again, in relation to mobility, an example is River Simple, a British manufacturer. They developed this electric car, but it's not going to be sold. This is offered through a leasing agreement, which includes everything, the energy required by the car, maintenance, repair, and even the insurance. Then at the spatial-social level, design can contribute by improving the social practices and the conditions of the communities living in different human settlements, from neighborhoods to cities. So an example would be a community carpooling where people living in the same neighborhood can share car lifts. And then moving up, design can also play a role on socio-technical system level. So looking at promoting radical changes on how societal needs, such as nutrition and mobility, are fulfilled. So here things become complex because there are an intertwined set of elements, including technology, infrastructure, policy, cultures, behaviors, and so on. So an example would be, in this case, to rethink the entire mobility of a city. So design can contribute in different levels, from materials to product service systems, and socio-technical systems. We can add a couple of polarities to this diagram. So we can add the scope of a design intervention. You can see it on top, from insular to systemic, and the framing of the design problems, from technocentric to human-centric. And then what we can do is to map the most important design for sustainability approaches. You can see them in these blue bubbles. So each of these represent a coherent set of design thinking methods and tools. So our design group is quite diverse. It includes people with different interests and expertise, from materials to business models to social aspects. So we cover most of these areas. And here I've highlighted the key research areas of the Sustainability Research Group. So now I'm going to provide a very quick overview of some of these research areas and provide some examples of projects. So I would start from design for advanced materials and manufacturing. So this area of research look at developing innovative materials and manufacturing processes with the aim of reducing environmental impact and foster circularity of resources. So an example of this is the work that has been done to develop new materials for renewable marine energy applications. And in particular, we develop a material which is based on recycled polyethylene reinforced with basalt fiber. And it has been used to replace traditional metal materials to avoid the problems linked to water corrosion and the related burden in terms of maintenance and repair. The second area of research is product design for sustainability. So here we look at developing methods and tools to design low environmental impact products and products that can support the transition towards a circular economy. An example of this product is the work that we did in collaboration with Kingfisher to improve the disassembly of drills. And you can see here some images and a prototype that we developed, which enables to reduce the disassembly time from 9 to 1 minute, enabling in this way, in an economic way, repair and maintenance. Another area of research is biomimetics. So essentially here we are looking at how design can take inspiration from nature in order to address material manufacturing and product innovation challenges. An example of this area is the Octopus project, which was aimed at developing a robots for marine applications, trying to mimic the sensory and mobility capabilities of octopuses. A lot of our research projects fit in the product service system design research area. So here we are looking at how design can contribute in terms of developing innovative business models, product service combination, and supply chains to support circularity. And several of our projects are currently focusing on reusable packaging systems. So we explored different business models to enable companies to shift from single-use to refillable and returnable packaging solutions. We explored all the different factors that have an impact on environmental, social, and economic sustainability of packaging. And we are currently looking into the track and trace technologies that can enable a better and more efficient systems of reusing packaging. Behavior, we know, plays a fundamental role in terms of sustainability, and one of the streams of our research is to understand how design can shape behavior, trying to trigger people to adopt certain behaviors and abandon other behaviors that are less sustainable. An example of this is the Empower project, which looked at different appliances used in homes and the key factors that are associated with user behaviors and energy efficiency. Quite a lot of our members of the group have an interest in the social aspects of sustainability, and in particular are looking at social practices within communities and how this can lead to new way of consumption, of interaction within communities that are more environmentally and socio-ethically sustainable. An example of this is a project that we recently completed focusing on energy access in informal urban settlements in African cities. And the focus was also, in this case, not only to understand how to facilitate energy access, but also to try to understand the gender equity and equality problems, issues, and how to properly consider those in the design process. So one of the output of this project was a set of tools to enable energy companies to identify gender equity and gender equality problems within certain communities and developing solutions to avoid and actually foster equity and equality. And then another area which is quite important in our group is defined as design for sustainability transitions. So we are looking at what role can be played by design in supporting large-scale socio-technical transformations. So a couple of projects which fit within this area. The first is Pisces, which aims at tackling the problem of plastic pollution and waste in Indonesia, trying to rethink the entire plastic packaging value chain in Indonesia. It's a very large interdisciplinary project. Several things have been done, but I won't just focus on one aspect, which is a living lab that we set up 1 year ago in Banyuwangi in East Java. And this plays an important role because it's a venue where different stakeholders can co-design together solutions, but also prototype, implement, and test alternatives. And you can see here what we did within the Living Lab was to create an environment to simulate different solutions. So we can quickly recreate settings, have people to engage with different solutions and gather feedback and refine these solutions. And then another project which has this ambition of looking at long-term socio-technical changes is the Circular Metal project, which aims at understanding how the metal sector in the UK can become circular by 2050. Again, a very large project. One of the things we were responsible for was the co-design of long-term visions of how the UK can move towards circularity. And this span across the entire metal supply chain, from the metal production to manufacturing processes, to use, maintenance, repair, and so on and so forth. So each vision was detailed, visualized, and in this way we were able to interact with different stakeholders to understand enablers and barriers. And as a result of this, we also developed a set of roadmaps to understand how we can move towards those visions, what actions need to be carried out by different stakeholders. Okay, so I hopefully gave an overview of what we do in our research group in terms of projects and the research areas. Of course, you can find quite a lot more details in our website and as well in our LinkedIn profile, which those links you can find here. Okay, thank you very much for listening.
Let me introduce Qing. Qing is a PhD researcher at the Brunel Design School. Her research used qualitative approaches to explore the behaviors and expectations of old people, and she's using design methods to promote social innovation.
Today, I'm gonna introduce one of my PhD research. So the topic is older people on climate change, memory, feelings, and life courses, generation differences. I'm the third year PhD, so this is one of my PhD studies. So at the beginning, I want to have some introduction about climate change and older people. So the climate change will harm the older people, as shown in the lecture review. The natural disasters will increase the health risks for older people. And also because of the older people retired, they just have the fixed income. They will face the economic hardship because of the lack of resources and because of the high energy cost. And also because of the climate change, the food and water will become worse than before, so they will face this problem. And another reference shows that the older people contribute to climate change. It means they live in a bigger house, so they will have the high energy consumptions, and also they have much more time to go for traveling, and they have their private cars. So is it true or not? So I'm thinking about it. So I will ask the question about you, for you. So how do you think about the climate change, and how do you understand the climate change? I think different people have different answers. Some people will say, oh, I have read it, and oh, I don't care about it. So maybe some people say, I remember I saw a document, I saw a documentary on BBC, and I remember something. So different people have different answer. I put 3 factors to influencing the low carbon behavior: the demographic characters.
Sorry, your slides are not moving. We are still seeing the first slide.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Oh, I just can show it.
You should
like
use
this.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I will quickly move to here. So I will continue. So the internet factor is more just about the human himself. It's like the consciousness and the knowledge they have, and the value and attitude they already have, also influenced by the emotional status and some habit. The external factors include the natural resources and also where they located, also the climate conditions, also the social norm, also something is about the religion and the culture and the information they get. Last year, I attended a conference to talk about the aging population and climate change. It's quite interesting. They put them together. They put the 2 topics together. So the relationship with the aging population and climate change, as I showed before. So the older people, they are a vulnerable group for the climate change. And some some lecturers said they are contributor to it, but the older people also are positive resources for the climate change because they have the pro-social behavior. They also have many chances. They have more free time, and they have the collective impact, and they are a connection between two generations. But the lack of some informations and the lack of the voice in the society, also some activities, they are not prepared for older people to talk about climate change. So how do older people understand the climate change? So my project is more focused on it. I read the literature review, but I will ask the older people how they understand it. Maybe we will have different answers from the literature review. So this is the photo I did the project. So my project is during the 4 months, and the aim is to ask the local people in London how they understand the climate change and what practice they already have. I use the focus group method because I want people to join together and discuss it. I didn't use the interview because interview is one-to-one. It's the conversation is just for the research and the participants. For the focus group, until now, I found the people, they stay together, they share the knowledge. Even some older people, they don't know a lot about the policy and the requirements about climate change. But after the discussion, they have the better understanding of it. And after that, they also left their contact with each other. So the older people also become the friends during my workshop. And the sampling, I interview about 30 older people. It's a 7 focus group, and the people is the age is around 50 to 85 years old. I didn't include some disabled people because this topic needs to it need a lot of communication. But the limitation is I just found the participants from the West London. I didn't have a lot of chance to travel to other area to find participant, and because of the group is voluntary, so I ask them if you are interested to join it. So there's not a lot of low-income participants to join in my focus group. And the interview framework includes the first, I asked them about the climate change awareness and what low carbon practice they have and what motivation behind it. I also asked them some question about how they get the information and how they share the information. But today I won't have time to share a lot of quotes from it. If you are interested, you can ask me after the meeting, and also the challenge and wish list they have. So now I'm gonna share some results from the findings. The interesting things, so the first I want to share is the climate change awareness. They talk a lot about their feeling about climate change. Before I did this focus group, I didn't expect it because for me, when I think about climate change, I always think, oh, I read something or I search something. But the older people, they talk about climate change, they talk about feelings, they talk about the temperature, the smiles, and also a participant talked about when he was young, he would be with his girlfriend and drive a boat on the sea. He touched the water from the sea. So what's that feeling? So they talk a lot about the feeling and the climate change, and it's quite new for me. And also some participants talk about the geographical perspective. They said if you are a foreigner from other country, or if you move from another city, maybe you can't feel the climate is different because the temperature is different from different area. But if you live in one area for a long time, maybe you can feel the climate change it happened during your life. And also some older people talk a lot about the history, the memory of history, like in the Second World War II, the food were limited. So their mom tried to cook some food for them and they planted vegetables. Also the kids wanted candies, but they didn't have a lot, and people valued food a lot back then. Also, they talk about the disasters because of the climate. One participant said he remembered his grandfather talk about the climatic disasters. So it gave him a very very bad memory about it. And also the older people, they wear of the nature. They talk about the warning of the nature. They talk about the fires and the forest or the polar bear in some area. So they try to tell me so what they remember and what they saw from TV also or from the newspaper. So and after that they said we should protect the nature and protect the planet for the next generation. And I also asked them what vocabulary you're going to use to describe this problem. The interesting thing is they don't use a lot of net zero. They said it's quite the pressure. This vocabulary give people a pressure. It's like a goal for the future. And they prefer still use the climate change or global warming, but for more rigorous, it's better to use the climate change to describe this problem. And after that, they share me some practice they have, like they reduce food waste, they compost, and they grow up vegetables. Especially some older people said, I prefer to eat more vegetables, and I prefer to eat the vegetable I plant. It's more good for older people's health. And after that, they said they have some strategies on save energy, like they reduce the temperature in winter, and also they bought the electric blanket to keep warm. And sometimes if they go outside, they will reduce the heating. And they also said, you young people, you should turn off the heating when you don't live in one room. And after that, they also shared some transport practice. They said if people over 60 years old, they have free travel card. It's encouraged people to use public transport. It's very good. They all said it's very good. And because of the age, they reduce travel, especially some older people, their partner pass away. After that, they prefer to stay at home, not travel a lot, and bring some trouble to their children. The motivation behind the low carbon practice, the most they talk about is for the next generation. It's always talk about also talk about in the nature. They said people should protect the planet, should protect the climate for the next generation. It's the most important problem they worried about. And also they worry about the nature. This nature is for animal, for plants, also for people living in another country. After they saw some news about climate change, if something happens, they really worry about the people in another country, what life they are living. It is a kind of pro-social behavior. And another motivation is because of the economy. They said they try to think about the electric cars because it saves money. If their son already changed the electric cars, they will start to think about it. And also they said it's better to have the rewards and punishment from the government. If the people, they don't sort of the rubbish very well, they should get the punishment. And if the people, they change to the electric cars or some new energies, it should get rewards. It's a kind of encourage people to have a better understanding of the climate change. And but another sad story is some older people said the renovation costs too much for them because they can't save enough money to do it for their house, so they won't do it. Also, one interesting story is an old lady from South Asian. She mentions the culture difference. So in some developing countries, if you don't have the good system for people, you should pay for go to doctor, you should pay for education. That's why people started to more frugal and save money. So if you are in a better condition in this country, maybe you can spend this money for holiday or buy some products you like. That's what the cultural difference make people have different behavior. And the challenging they mentioned, also the top one is the next generation. They say the next generation should have more actions on climate change, even they know more knowledge about it. and the young people has different consumption concept with consent with older people. So the young people, they said the young people will buy cheap clothes and very fashionable, but they will change the clothes very fast. It's a kind of waste of money and waste of resources. But the older people is like over 60 years old. They try to still wear what clothes they have. They stop buy a lot of new clothes. And the also young people and old people have different living habits. The young people like driving and traveling. Also, the young people sometimes eat the junk food, but the older people prefer to eat vegetable and do some home cooking. So that's the living habit different. And another difference is the young people use mobile phone and social media more than the older people. When I asked the question about where you get the information, they said they prefer newspaper or BBC or TV. They think the information from the social media are not very reliable. The last session, I asked them about their life courses. They said because when you get older, your attitude will change. It's like when you were young, you want to go traveling with your friends, you want to buy clothes, and after you have a family, you were busy to earn money for the family and support the family. And when you get older, you have enough time to think about yourself and to reflect it. Maybe you want to do something for other people. You want to be very helpful to other people, and you want to do something for the next generation. So the life in different stage are very different. Even what you say and what media you use is different. But the older people said maybe the young people should have more conversation with the older people to communicate and help. It's like two generations help each other to become better. So after I did all the research, I started to think about what else can affect the behavior. So I think the memory can affect the behavior based on my findings. So the sensory memory, like what I told, the smell or the touch or the feeling, it can be stored in your brain, and after that go to the short-term memory, and after that go to the long-term memory. Also, the episodic memory is a kind of long-term memory will influence you to have another behavior decision making. The episodic memory includes some experiences you have during your life. Also, another memory is a kind of cultural aspect, is collective memory and cultural memory. Like what I talked, the people had the memory during World War II, and also during another country, like in another culture, in Asian culture. So this different environment will help you to keep the memory at that time. And also another point is the moment of change is also an opportunity for people to change their behavior. It includes some biographical change, like woman got pregnant and older people get retired. Also the personal interaction with innovation, like you experience something. Also some experience of climate related event. Some people said their grandfather experienced the heat wave. Also another event like the COVID and the Brexit is a kind of large-scale political and infrastructure disruption. So this moment of change will give you a memory about it. So after I did every research and lecture review, I designed an intervention game. So this game is to help people to awake of the memory of climate change and also start a conversation about climate change. Also, this game is for a designer to older people or young people to older people to promote two generations conversation to talk about it. So this is a simple original design of my intervention. So it has 4 themes: the feeling, the people, history, and the geography. So how you play it, you should cut it first, and after that you put arrow in the middle, and you can randomly rotate it and choose a topic, and you can start the conversation. This is before cut it. This is after cut it. If you can see me from the screen, I also bring it here today to show how it look like. And I'm gonna introduce 4 parts of it. The feeling includes the different feeling you can have during your life. So the question is like what food you eat when you were young? What's the difference? And do you remember the weather you experienced before? What's the difference? Some topic like that. And also the people is most of the people choose this topic is they quite like talking about people, their parents, grandparents, and children and partner. And also history is about your personal experiences when you were young. What's your feeling about the climate? And when you get older, what's your feeling about it? And can you tell me a story about how you think about the climate change? And also another is about the geography. If you come from another country, or if you live in another city, or if you travel to other area, you can feel the different cities are different. So what's your feeling about it? I just get the feedback the day before yesterday on the Older People Day. I interview about 6 to 7 people to talk about this turntable. They used this game and tried to start to introduce their stories. It's quite interesting. Some older people also talk about how they live with their grandparents. They live in the small flat, or they live in an old house, and how they get the heating back then, and what's the weather like when they were when they date with their partner the first time. It's like back then the people can't wear less like now, because now everywhere has have seating, have heating. Back then people need to wear more clothes in the winter. And also some people talk about other countries. So how's the sea look like, and what's the food taste like in their own country, and what's the difference after they move to here. So what climate change during these 2 countries. So they share a lot of stories based on the turntable. So thank you. I think I finished my presentation. Welcome to ask me any questions.
Thank you very much, Qing. We've got 9 minutes for questions and answers. Obviously, Qing only introduced one study of her PhD. If you're interested in more aspects, you can ask broader questions as well.
Maybe I can ask you something. Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering if during your research you also encountered people who are actually denying climate change.
You mean I include people
Like-
to talk about climate change?
I mean, like people who are saying that it's something that is not happening.
Denying, they don't. People who
Who
don't agree.
in climate.
Yeah.
Yes, some participants, they don't agree about the climate change, especially some people said, I'm old enough, I don't care about the climate change, maybe it's none of my business. But I saw one lady fight with another lady because of this topic. One lady insist on, oh, you should think about climate change. One lady said, oh, I'm old enough, I won't think about it, I want to enjoy my life. So it's not every older people all support climate change, but most of the participants from in my work in my focus group, they care about climate change. I think it's a kind of limitation, because I ask them in advance, if you are interested, you can join my research. Maybe some people, they don't interested in it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Qing. It's very, very interesting topic. So can you just expand a little bit more on the game you have developed what is that for? Is for like promoting some behavior change or something like that? Maybe I missed some about that.
I designed this game. First of all, before I did this focus group, I interviewed some Chinese migrants in the London. Some of them is like what people said. They don't care about the climate change, or they didn't think about. They did something for climate change. So after that, I interviewed some older local people here to talk about it. I found the older people, some of them are very similar. They talk about the feelings, they talk about the experiences, talk about the next generation. So this game is try to wake people awareness of climate change and help people to start the conversation. So if people they don't know it, they don't care about it, after they use it, they can have some memory to think about climate change. If people already know it, it's a kind of game to play with the next generation or with the designers and give people more ideas about climate change. Also, it's like what I mentioned in my research, older people quite interested in the conversation with next generation. So, but sometimes they don't have a chance to talk about it together. So it's a game they can play together and started to have a new conversation. Yes.
Okay, so it can be used by research activity and also with their family members to have some conversation. Oh, thank you very much.
Can you have any things you would like to share with the audience? Do you have any puzzles in your mind?
I really interesting. If someone, is like not older people, if some young generations will interested in this game, if not for older people, if just for two young people, will you play this game to talk about climate change? Or you think it's quite stupid to use this game to talk about it? I don't care about it. I want to go shopping. So I really quite interested in the young people, how they are feeling.
Yeah, you can certainly try with younger people if your ethics approves. Yeah. Okay, if there are no further questions, Karina, your hands up.
I can have just a question. Yes. Thank you for your nice presentation and this interesting work that you are doing. And thinking about your question you had now in the end, I think like using game and the idea of gamification and when it comes to increased understanding of climate change, I think that is a very good and smart idea. And what I think could be important in this case is when the content seems to be there, but to continue to work on the graphical layout and the graphic design. So it will be very, how should I say, it looks good now, but so it will be even more appealing, and also this how to play it, you know, so you can, it's a game that could be also exciting to play. So that is the way to continue developing this, maybe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ginevra Terenghi is a PhD researcher at Brunel University London and a collaborator at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts of Southern Switzerland. She is interested in participatory approaches based on data physicalization to promote data literacy in healthcare. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So yes, as she said, my name is Ginevra Terenghi, and I'm a PhD student at Brunel. I started my PhD 2 years ago on a project I'm currently working for the University of Sciences and Arts of Southern Switzerland. My background is in media communication. Then I studied information communication design, and I specialized in information design. Today I will present my PhD research, which is about participatory approach based on data physicalization to promote women's agency in healthcare. Okay. More specifically, my research considers data physicalization as a research method. In this direction, materials are employed to represent and make data tangible, so to enhance self-awareness in women affected by intimate infection and promote data collection and communication to improve treatment and prevention. In this presentation today, I will quickly recap the research topic, objectives, to then focus on the definition of the methodology, which I define as data probes, to finally talk about some preliminary results of the workshop sessions I ran to test and put in practice the data probes. The research emerged from a real intangible needs identified within SPIRED, which is a project I'm involved within the SUPS University, the Swiss University. The project also involved different partners and is supported by the Swiss Innovation Agency. And the goal of the project is to address antimicrobial resistance from different perspectives. So there are academic and industrial partners as well, some from with a medical background and working in the medical sectors, while our challenge as designer is to involve citizens and make the problem of antimicrobial resistance known and make people aware about good practices of antimicrobial consumption. So the first challenge I identified within the project was to understand how design could contribute to address the problem of antimicrobial resistance. Antimicrobial resistance is the ability of microorganisms to become increasingly resistant to antimicrobials, which were designed to kill or inhibit them. So the image represented two different situations to make you understand what antimicrobial resistance is. On the left, there are microbes which are susceptible to antimicrobials, while on the right, you see microbes which are resistant to antimicrobials. What happened in case of antimicrobials administration? So on the right, if antimicrobials are given, sensible microbes decreases their growth and stop their development. On the opposite, you see from the image on the right, resistant microbes keep growing as they are not affected by antimicrobials. So consequences, as you see in this image, resistance microbes keep growing and spread around, and they also transmit their resistance to other microbes, which become resistant as well. In general, antimicrobials are those agents that kill microorganisms or inhibit their growth. There are different types of antimicrobials, and based on the microorganism they are supposed to treat and to inhibit, there are specific kind of substances. For example, here we see simple classification. We have antifungals to treat fungal infection. We have antibiotics to treat bacterial infection, and we have antivirals to treat what are viral infections. This research decided to focus on women's intimate infection as diseases affecting the female reproductive organ and genitalia areas. The decision to narrow the focus down and focusing on women is mainly because first, the women are underrepresented in terms of data. In fact, current data practices often work on women rather than with them. And secondly, when women's data is available for research, so research is able to collect and work on women's data, very often men are the one who analyze and interpret those data. So this generates an asymmetry between who produce and who are the information about. So back to antimicrobials, one defined the focus on women specifically. The kind of antimicrobials used to treat intimate female infections usually are used to face the problem of Candidiasis fungi, vaginosis, but also gonorrhea and urinary tract infection. The one most common is cystis, and also genital herpes and papillomavirus. These are just some of the variety of infections, female infection, that can be treated with antimicrobials. So the identification and distinction of this disease is not always clear, as patients might not have the knowledge to differentiate, or sometimes what happens is that the symptoms are very similar. So also what happened on top of that is that some pathologies or situation involve more than one infections, increasing the complexity of the illness and affecting the way it occurs. In theory, what should happen, so to have the most accurate diagnosis as possible, and so consequent treatment prescription, patients should undergo laboratory analysis. But unfortunately, this kind of analysis is not always possible, as time and money consuming. So additionally, people have a general misperception about the reason and causes of consuming antimicrobials, and this also leads to sometimes wrong or excessive consumption of antimicrobials. So in case of impossibility to run those laboratory tests, patients' description and interpretation of symptoms provide a really precious and useful information for physicians to define the treatment. And this is why, when not based on tests, treatment are mainly prescribed relying on patients' available data and medical background, so context information of patients that help a physician to interpret the symptoms and understand which kind of treatment is required. So the literature review, combined with some expert interviews I ran during the first year of my research, allowed to identify two main problems within the research, which are first the misuse and overuse of antimicrobials caused by mainly insufficient education and literacy, and then lack of data and information for accurate diagnosis. So in order to address this problem, the research focuses on two main objectives, which are first, raising awareness and ability of patients to analyze and communicate their own symptoms. And then, based on these analysis and data collected, creating and generating, organizing this bottom-up, so patient-generated data, to increase the general knowledge related to the disease and causes leading to antimicrobial resistance. So, considering these objectives, the goal of the research is to support women's self-awareness and the communication of intimate infection to improve diagnosis and treatment. Women want to be considered active participants within this research, and their actions are posed at the center of the system that is meant to promote female agency, autonomy, and knowledge. And for the intention of bringing their knowledge, so women's knowledge, into the design process in terms of experience and expertise, this research first asks how can women with experience and expertise of intimate infection contribute to improving prevention and treatment. So the concept of experience refers to medical staff such as physician, doctor, gynecologist, but also pharmacists and general practitioners. So women knowing the disease from a medical point of view. While when I say experience, I refer to all the people who personally suffered from the disease, who are brought into the process not only because they're suffering, but the idea of the research is also to consider patients for other skills they have as people, and which can be useful to contribute to best frame the disease. So the core of the research is represented by investigating the role of design to support the symptom representation. And the focus, then the second question that arises from the previous one is, how can design support symptoms representation to promote self-awareness, data collection, and communication of the disease? To answer this question, the research is expected to produce data in form of experiences and stories, which can be used and are useful to create and improve the knowledge of intimate diseases, but also a method, so consisting on artifacts and workshop format to bring data physicalization in design research for healthcare. So data physicalization is suggested as a method, a research method, to investigate in this specific case intimate and healthcare issues that other designer and research can benefit from, readapting for other kind of disease. Sorry, but is data physicalization I'm focusing on, and I mentioned. So data physicalizations are artifacts with geometrical shape or material properties, both quantitative and qualitative information. In case of this research, there are many different aspects and varieties of data physicalization artifacts, but in case of this research, physicalization representation of data is employed to promote individual and collective reflection based on self-tracking practices. So materials are employed in this case to facilitate non-experts in working on and with the data to support the development of literacy, so enable them in better knowledge of the disease.
Sorry,
involving
Ginevra?
patient in the process.
Sorry,
Yes?
your
Yeah.
slides are not moving. We still see laboratory analysis.
Okay, I'm wondering why, because I see my slide moving. Do
you want me to share which one
let
you
me try
are?
to share the screen. Do you see now something different?
We can't see anything at the moment.
Anything?
No, it's a blank screen.
Okay. It's very weird. Just give me a second. I try to share the screen again. Do you see anything?
No.
Nothing changed from before, so I'm just wondering what happened.
I think it's your internet problem is not very good because your resolution is low.
Oh,
Should I try?
Yes, if you want.
I have
please.
your backup. Which number you wanted to show?
Yes, I was slide 23.
23. Okay.
Okay, maybe I just say to you when you have to run the next one. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, so I was describing what data physicalization is. So data physicalization are artifacts with geometrical shapes or material properties encode both quantitative and qualitative information to be used as evidence. So in the next slide, I was mentioning that the goal of the research is to involve patients in the process of diagnosis and consequent treatment choices. Patients are meant to support and while working with the physicalization that can facilitate the agency shifting that is happening in healthcare. Supporting patients in taking more responsibility through their managing of data. Next slide. Patients are empowered to be able to select, collect, organize, understand, and then communicate data to doctor. Doctors are not meant to be cut off from the process, but while receiving more information, they are supposed to be able to interpret and make decisions which can be more accurate. So doctors are not, as I said, cut off from the process. Instead, their role is valorized by the intention of providing them with more information, which is supposed to improve the final decision regarding the treatment. Next. For the purpose of collecting and representing data, the concept of cultural probes on one hand and of data sculpture on the other have been considered. So these concepts have been combined together, cultural probes to take inspiration for data collection and interpretation, while data sculpture, which is one of the first definitions provided for data physicalization, because of the artistic and functional qualities that the final artifact takes into account. In the next slide, you see how I combine these two different concepts. So their combination introduced the idea of data probes, which is meant to habilitate patients' collection and discussion of both quantitative and qualitative data, in this case related to the disease. So data probes are defined as artifacts whose creation is a pretext to activate self-reflection and improve vocabulary of patients to facilitate communication and data collection. Next, how to employ and make use of data probes is something that I address within the following workshop format that I'm going to present to you. The workshop is about a 2-hour activity involving 6-7 women with expertise and experience of the disease, which are supposed to work together, identifying and collecting relevant symptoms of the disease. Next, participants are asked during the workshop to share their experience of intimate infection and treatment, and to shape their symptoms to improve communication and the knowledge of the disease, so to improve the final decision making. In the next slide, you see how participants are, what's the goal and what participants should benefit from taking part in the workshop. So first, they are asked to identify data to improve practices limiting the disease. Second, they are asked to associate data to parameters, so develop what is defined as data literacy, and then not only data literacy, storytelling, so they should benefit from improving their verbal communication of data and symptoms. In the next slide, you see that participants take part in a process of coding and decoding information. So first, they transform their stories and experiences into data. Then these data become objects through the process of data physicalization, which are associated later with the parameters. And then on the opposite, from parameters, which should be able in the end to decode the information and going back to original data. In the next slide, you see how the workshop setting works. So on the workshop day, participants work around together on a central table. They are first introduced to the topic in details and the importance of sharing the experience they are going to share with each other. Then in the next slide, you see the set of label, which is meant to support the first part of the activity. So the label reports some common symptoms of intimate infections. Participants are asked to identify the most common symptoms and add what is missing based on their experience. Labels report symptoms such as swollen stomach, bloody urine, cloudy urine that has been taken from literature and from expert interview. Then materials are introduced. You see from the next slide, the research idea consider testing different material. For the pilot, so the first session, units of wood, polyester, foam, and material were used in different shape and sizes. You see from on the image on the left, while on the right you see how the kit evolved. And during the last session, you see how I worked to provide participants with very specific units that facilitate assemblage. In the next slide, you see how the kit is currently composed. So there are units of different materials, I considering foam, polyester, and wood, different shape, sphere, cubes, triangular prism, and sizes, so having small and big units. Each unit have a hole to easily allow assemblage through wood pegs. And what emerged from the very last session was also to have flexible connectors. So I will include also some flexible connector as an alternative to the wood pegs, so to link units that are not directly close to each other. After introducing materials to participants for the suggesting a physical variable to work with, a different set of label is made available, reporting in this case physical variables such as shape, roughness, texture. So participants are invited to explore materials that are at that point on the table to identify variables based on their perception and feeling they attribute to symptoms previously identified. So participants are asked to associate symptoms to physical variables, and this is possible through the shape of the label, which facilitate the process, working as a sort of puzzles that ask participants to associate symptoms to physical variable. And then finally, in the next slide, you see the shaping activity. So participants are invited to shape their symptoms. This step is individual, while previously they work in groups. Everyone create the home object, and to facilitate the activity, participants are suggested to think about the story they've shared at the very beginning of the workshop, and to make it physical. In the end, in the next slide, everyone present the final artifact, which work as a pretext to share the personal experience to others. So during the 3 sessions, there was different phases and order of this activity that changed. I will skip the details of the process, but you are free to ask me maybe later on. And I would like now to share with you some preliminary results. So in the next slide, you see, so I started now organizing results, and what emerged is that participants show gratefulness for the chance of talking about the disease. Participants share practices and remedies among each other, so this process happened naturally among them. And in some of recurrences, what happened is that participants' artifacts rebuild and is built on a sort of timeline, while in case of very specific disease and cases of disease, the object is more like a unique object representing the disease. So in slide 43, yes, this one, the artifacts are from the last session, so people tend to create their word perception of the disease rather than specific symptoms, and this is something we would like to improve and address for the next session. Units of material become element of a structure which must read in the context of their position and not like units by units. In the next slide, initial results also suggested that some interesting direction of investigation, specifically related to the process of data physicalization. So first of all, it emerged the role of sound and olfactory variables within physicalization, which is something that materials doesn't communicate itself, but is something that can be extracted or people can try to recreate within basic materials. Then there is this question which emerged within the process of designing the kit. So how much material should be already shaped to be available for participants to work on their data. Someone were suggesting plasticine to work with, but there are other like positions and idea of the kind of materials that should be given to participants. And then also emerged that gesture and not only material are primary ingredients to physicalize symptoms. So it's not about material only, but the way people interact and work with material that is quite interesting. In the next slide, I just like quickly go through the main problem and difficulties that emerge within the research, especially to obtain the ethics approval to discuss so intimate and care data in a participatory environment. Then the participatory recruitment, that's also why the focus of the research has been a little bit open. I started focusing on urinary tract infections, and I now consider different kind of infection to make people interacting and like sharing practices among each other from a wider perspective. And then, as introduced from the previous question, so the kind of material and variable that should be presented to participants to shape the symptoms. So based on this, I have like in the next slide kind of question that are still open within my research. So what material would you use to shape your symptoms related to healthcare and intimate data, from Lego to Play-Doh to already existing objects? And how, on the other hand, as I started now to collecting and organizing results and data from the workshop sessions, how would you make 3D objects, so these data probes coming from the activity, accessible for interpretation? If there are any form, support, or interaction that you would suggest to make these artifacts not only available for myself as a researcher to interpret and read, but also for others to explore. Thank you, and thank you very much to share my slides and change slides for me.
You're welcome. Now we have 2 minutes for Ginevra. Any questions? Could I just ask you, using these physical props, what you wouldn't have learned without of using them?
Without, sorry?
Without of using this physicality of data. There are other ways, like you could describe and you could use drawings. But so what is the physical aspect bring? What unique aspect?
Yeah, the idea of going physical is because the introduction of materials. So materials in this direction and this context is supposed to facilitate working on and with the data, as I mentioned at the beginning. So it's something that physically make the process easier for people who are not in habit or not expert in working with data. Additionally, as I consider from the very beginning a participatory context, materials and something physical to share among the group is meant to facilitate participation and like sharing practices and ideas within the group. And lastly, the idea of having materials on the table is also to make tangible something which is very far from like common life as data. Also, the material provide a sort of expanding vocabulary that is I would like to make participants benefit from. As we probably know, when we go to doctors, sometimes we lack of vocabulary and terms to describe our own symptoms, diseases, and both physical, mental, and like condition and feelings. So the idea of describing and using material, taking advantage of some characteristic that materials already have, like texture, weight, and this kind of stuff, should, in this idea, provide participants new terms and ideas to expand their vocabulary to describe the disease.
Thank you very much. Very interesting study. Okay, I think we need to move on. Thank you, Ginevra. And I'm going to stop recording on your session. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Yes. Great. So Dr. Yunshui Jing is Assistant Professor and College of Arts and Media at Tongji University, and he's also the Director of the Arts and Media's Experimental Lab. Now the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Dong. It's good to see you again. And today I would like to share a small topic about the art and media research and innovation based on XR technology at Tongji University. And I'm very happy to share our works here. And so basically we got three parts. The first part, I would like to have a brief introduction of myself and my lab. So the second part is a project about using city-scale augmented reality plus art healing concept. The last part is using WebGL VR technology plus exhibition. So the first part, as Ding Dong just introduced, I'm a lecturer in Tongji University, and I'm also a host PhD from the University of Arts London, and I'm running a lab named Non-Planar Screen Lab in Tongji University. So this lab, as you can see in the picture, we got a cool dome, and also we got a 4D theater system. And additionally, we got a variety of extended reality equipments like Vision Pro, and HoloLens, Quest Pro, etc. So, sorry, the second part about the city-scale AR and art healing. So, first of all, I would like to introduce city-scale AR solution. It is a little bit different compared to for example, Vision Pro or a normal iPad augmented reality. City-scale AR can augment it in any environment within a very large space. For example, the whole city or a very, very big building. However, for example, if you use Apple Vision Pro or you just use the building augmented reality functions with an iPad, it can only augment it inside the room, usually. So this is the very big difference. And however, it usually typically requiring pre-3D scanning of the space. For example, you want to augment it, the whole block, you need to 3D scanning it first. And another thing is normally it will use cloud-based services. So the coin is, first of all, the recognition accuracy has errors, sometimes up to like 10 or 15 centimeters. So in other words, it can't be as accurate as Apple Vision Pro. And the second thing is the cost of such technology is relatively high. In China, usually it will cost like 50,000 yuan per year. So what we want to do with this technology. So our idea is we want to create a wonder garden. The basic idea is we want to augment the space with fancy visuals and audios, maybe a fantastic and artistic kind of surrealistic garden. And the purpose of this augmented experience is we want to alleviate the life anxieties of college students and also soothe emotion and relax their mind and body. And we plan to build 3 scenery. for the three distinctive space inside a building in Tongji University named Yijia Building. It's a very, very tall building. And so we named this project as Wonder Garden. And we hope users can use their mobile phone or use an iPad or maybe use a headset. And then they can see this augmented Wonder Garden. As they move, each step will reveal different visuals and audio experience. And I would like to show you the concept of the first thing. We named it Deep Sea Dreamscape. And as you could see in the picture, on the left is the original building. So it is a very large interior space. And on the right side is our concept art. So we want to have some augmented visuals inside this building. For example, we could have flying fish flock, we could have glow jellyfish drift, and we could have some silken strands sway, and maybe a wandering whale just swim inside this interior space, and also some giant exotic bloom in the air. And also we could have some little interaction inside the space. For example, if visitors linger for a while, the flock of fish will swim towards them. And here is an early test. It's a screen recording from the early May that you can viewing on an iPad inside this building. And I would like to show you. Can you hear the sound?
Yes, we can hear.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. The sound is a little bit mismatching because we're still in progress. Yeah, this is a short recording, and at the early May, this is what we did for the first thing. The second thing is we want to augmented lotus pond. We call it lotus pond dream. This is another entrance of the building. It's not that big and that tall as the first one. It's like 2-floor tall, kind of. So we want augmented some like swing lotus stern, like a dragonfly, like glittering caustics, and like carp swimming in the water, and chorus of the frog. And when the visitors touch the water, the ripple can spread and drawing the fish and the carp to get together together where the audience touch the surface. And we also did some testament in the mid-May. So this is another screen recording on the iPad inside the building. So the water is interactive. You can touch the water. Yeah, that's it. And the last thing is we want to build a flower gallery for this special kind of a special structure, kind of stair. Yeah, and we want to augment it as a flower gallery, and we will have some scattered blossom and some butterfly inside, and we got some floating flowers. But this one is still under progress, so I don't have a video record yet. But we are close to finish this project. I think we will finish it at the end of June. So the next step, actually, this is not just a practice project. We want to do some research with this project. And basically, we got 3 research questions. The first one is we want to see if these AR plus realistic natural thing have a climbing and stress reducing effect. So we would like to conduct experiment using our demos. So just like pre and post questionnaire, and to see if we could have some effect to lower the stress level of the visitors. The second thing is we will deploy it, and as I mentioned before, we will deploy it on various devices, and one of the device is head-mounted display. So we would like to see if head-mounted media, because head-mounted display usually have the spatial sound. So together with the spatial sound, can have some additional positive effect, positive impact on stress reducing. And the last question is we want to see how does this effect compare and contrast with the real world green space and blue space. As we know, the research has already revealed that green space and blue space in real world can relieve our emotion and lower our stress level. So we just want to compare it, and we will also planning to conduct the experiment because just outside the building we got a lake and we got a lot of trees and grasses, so we can do a comparative study. And another thing is we want to put more emphasis on the sound, and we would like to call it maybe spectacular soundscape. So the idea is we will how to say put more sound effect. For example, like this one. So the idea is we want to kind of enlarge these sound effect, like the summer rain, like the frog croaking, and you could see the visuals of a typical summer lotus pond, and you could see all these enlarged sound effect. And we also want to do some research about if such kind of design can further relieve the audience or the visitor's emotion. And okay, the next part is about our WebGL VR study. So firstly, I would like to briefly introduce what is WebGL. This is a typical desktop VR. This is also our project, and I would like to quickly show you. So you can move with your keyboard or a mouse or touch screen. And you could see actually a lot of posters on the wall. You could check these posters because this is actually a virtual exhibition for Shanghai Public Service Advertising. And this is also one of our project. And such kind of VR, I think it's kind of fancy because it got very good visuals. However, it always suffering from the issues of the low accessibility. So what we want to do is we are thinking if we could to make these kind of things more accessible. That's the reason why we are trying to use WebGL VR. And I will show you 3 demos very quickly. The first one is the online graduation exhibition of Tongji University. We designed and we programmed it, use lightweight WebGL technology. So this online graduation exhibition can be accessed on any devices. The only requirement is your device should have a browser. So including low performance device like mobile phone. And this is the link. This is a link of the exhibition, and you can type it. And I think you should access it. Maybe it could be a little bit slow to get the connection because of the because we deployed this exhibition in the server of Tongji University, and there will be some issues with the internet connection, but it's not the fault of this technology. And also we actually extensively optimized these digital assets. The entire exhibition is only 40 megabyte. So these things greatly enhance the accessibility of the exhibition, still maintaining impressive image quality. I can show you. I will click this link, and it will open in my browser. Yeah, as you could see, I'm now opening it. This is one of the exhibition. And you can press E to see the detail of this work. So still, you can press E to see the detail of this the student's graduation project. Because of the limited time, I won't go through all the exhibition. So this is the first thing we are trying to implement. The second attempt is to enhance. We want to further enhance the interactivity and the shareability. So we incorporated more interactive elements into the VR exhibition. For example, this one. This is the virtual digital shadow puppet exhibition we created for Master Wang Tianwen. He is a master of the shadow puppet. So in this exhibition, visitors can do more interaction. They can virtually experience the process of the creating, assembling, and performing of a shadow puppet show, like you could see in this animation. This is people are interacted. I do some interaction inside this VR exhibition. The last thing we are trying to do is this one, because we still want to make it more interesting, and people would like to share it with their friends. Because the whole concept of this WebGL VR is we want to enhance its accessibility. We want people access it, and we want people would like to share it. So we designed this blue and white porcelain thing for a museum. And the idea is it allows visitors to combine designs from a library of 200 Qinghua patterns to create their own porcelain pieces. And we use an AI portrait interface to help the visitors name the porcelain they designed, and also to compose 2 lines of the portrait automatically for them, and it will also generate a QR code. So the visitors or the players can easily to share their creations on social media. It will generate a poster, and the poster will have a QR code, so they can share it in their social media, and other people just scan the QR code. It will access into this virtual exhibition, and they will see the 3D creation their friends made. So the next step is what we are now just in progress. We are trying to employ a virtual human driven by ChatGPT. We use MetaHuman module developed by Unreal Engine, and we plan to study the impact of the AI-based virtual guide on the attractiveness and communicative power of this exhibition, a VR exhibition. And here is a quick testament. Oh, sorry, it's in Chinese. We just say hello and.
你好，欢迎来到线上公益展馆，我是小薇，有什么可以帮到你的吗？
So, oh, sorry. So the virtual guide just introduced herself and said, "Welcome."
你好，欢迎来。
可以为我介绍一下展馆的海报吗？
当然可以。这个展馆分为3个部分，分别介绍了环保、扶贫和健康领域的公益项目和相关海报。你想先了解哪个部分的内容呢？
So we just asked, can you introduce a little bit about this exhibition? And he said this exhibition has three parts, and which part would you like to know first? Yeah. Yeah, that's all. That's what we did in the past 3 years around it VR and augmented reality. That's all, Professor Dong.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jing. That's a wonderful application of technologies. We have 4 minutes. Any questions from the audience? You can unshare your screen now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, working.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
It's my honor.
I see you started with research, started with practice, and then you wanted to build some research based on your practice. One of the barriers for a lot of these kind of technologies, the accessibility, as you mentioned. How we can, are there any new technologies we could explore which enable people to see without of extra device? Is that going to be a long way?
Yes, I think it's going to be a long way. Yeah. Actually, dome is a kind of thing. You didn't need to wear extra devices, but you can see the immersive visuals.
Yeah. We obviously have a dome here. Professor Dr. Harrison, you wanted to ask a question?
Can you hear me? Well, I don't
yes.
know if the mic because I know my camera's not. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I really enjoyed that talk. It was fascinating, actually. I particularly enjoyed the porcelain design. That was something that would, really appeal to me. But I think you've got a lot of interesting bits of work. The first question, I did put it on the chat, was about how are you going to measure the stress levels? Is it through self-reporting or and then Frederica came in and followed up, another one of our staff members. They said, are you going to use sensors on the people who are experiencing it? Or are you going to ask them to report their stress levels? That was all. Don't worry about the chat. It's just repeating what I said. But
okay. Thank you, Professor David. That's a good question. Actually, I haven't think too much about these issues. My initial plan is I want to use questionnaire. I think I would like to do some literature review to see if there is a reliable questionnaire that can help me to measure people's stress level. And I would like to do a pre and post questionnaire before and after the experiment. This is my initial plan.
All right.
Do you have
thank
any?
you very much. Thank you again for the very interesting work. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do hope there will be more opportunities for collaboration. We have a pond and a green space and also soundscape as well. Yeah, in the building. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think we should move to the next talk. Thank you. Please, Karina Söderland. She has Söderland.
Yeah, excellent.
Is that right?
Söderland. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Has a PhD in innovation and design. She's a senior lecturer in information design and is trained in spatial design. Karina conducts design research and has several years of experience in case study research. One of her research areas is information design in the organization of work and workspaces to support, guide, and orchestrate activities, performances, and interactions regarding people, objects, technology, space, and place. Karina is well familiar with ethnography methods and integrated approach to research performed in collaboration with different actors, experts, practitioners, and users. She has applied and developed visual, collaborative, and participatory methods to, for example, jointly explore contextual conditions problems, create design concepts, and as a part of the change process. Over to you, Karina. Thank you very much. She's from Mälardalen University in Sweden.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Great. So thank you for that presentation. I really enjoyed all the presentation we've seen so far with a very splendid and intriguing design. So this presentation will be much more low-key compared to them. And it's about recognizing the non-designer's contribution to collaborative design. I mean, what could we actually learn from it? So my name is Carin Söderland, and I'm from the Department of Information Design at Mälardalen University, and I will just show a very quick picture here in case you don't know where we are. This is a university, one university with two campuses. So we have England to the left and then maybe Sweden to the right, and the campuses are in the city Västerås and Eskilstuna, and those are very close to the capital of Stockholm. I don't know if you've been there, but maybe you recognize it. So there I am at the moment. And the white building there is where we are at the moment here. The right side of the building is totally new, a new design by Danish architects who have designed our new campus then. And it is combined with an old bathing house. So that is a way to reuse buildings and in new purposes. And the bottom picture is from the campus in Västerås. Anyway, I'm from the Information Design Research Group, and the Information Design Research Group at my university takes a human-centered perspective. And we have several cross-disciplinary research projects and work together with researchers in other disciplines. And we also have several collaborative projects with industry and public service. And we're focusing on establishing theories and methods and tools related to various kinds of mediated communication. And we establish knowledge regarding the interactions between individuals and groups, artifacts, technology, and the physical and virtual environment. So I doesn't maybe say you that much, but it's possible later on to check out our website, of course, if you want to. So I will be back to the presentation, what I'm going to talk more about today. And I will talk about a very minor study that I did, which is a part of the larger project. And the project was about something called visual management, and I will talk a little bit more about that. But this study deals with the recognition of the non-designer's contribution to the design of information visualizations that we, in this project, designed together. And it was a visualization about workload, an abstract thing, as you know, how you perceive the load of work when you work at a specific job or or you are in a specific situation. So the ease of heaviness or the experience of workload, that is what the visualization should be about. So I will tell you, I will go through this story a little bit, but now you know what it is about. So the participants in this study were socialists and behavioral scientists, and they work at the municipal office. And they work with healthcare issues for the citizens. And in this 2016, they implemented these kind of information boards, actually visual management boards or visual planning boards. They implemented in their organization. And they had, if I remember correctly, they had about 7 boards and 7 teams who met regularly every week or every second week or bi-monthly and gathered around these boards. They could look like this as you see on the picture. And when they are there, they plan things what to do. They follow up things what they should have done. That could be activities and performances. They gave a suggestion for improvement of the work and also organization improvement. And they could also sometimes discuss the well-being factors, such as, are we happy at work at the moment? And every team here, every work team has a so-called board coach. So there were one person that was had a special care and interest in actually dealing with this board and make sure they were updated. I don't know if you've seen this kind of visual management boards before, but they are rooted in the Toyota production system philosophy and even Taylorism and scientific management. You can trace them back to there to make production efficient and effective. So this picture that you see is rather representative because these boards you can find in several enterprises and in a number of industrial enterprises and other companies, but also in municipality office and hospitals and other places. And this picture is rather representative in the way that the board's graphical layouts with printed bars and pie charts, trend graphs, taped lines and structure grids, that is very typical how they can look like. They have different headlines, but this layout is very common, and these colors are rather common as well, you know. And so this board is based on visual communication. This purpose with the board is to actually visually communicate the activities and the performances and what's going on in the organization. And much knowledge in this area is actually within engineering research. So visual studies or design research is still rather rare, even though it's started to increase. So for a designer, like many of us are, this kind of board might not seem very exciting at all to do anything with, or they are not innovative, maybe you think so. But I think it is precisely in this context that we are needed and that we can make our design skills that can make a difference, actually. So I will give you some example of what we did. Let's see. In this study, the board coaches and the teams found out that they would like to work with an information. They would create an information visualization that they could put on a board and that they could have a meeting around it and they could discuss workload. So they had the perceived workload of how heavy the work was at the moment. And they wanted to do that to be able to visualize it and then bring it on the table. And today, or at that moment, they only had symbols like this that they work with. And these are very common symbols in this context because they are not predetermined symbols or graphic or other visuals to present wellness or well-being on these kind of boards. So, but it's very common in practice to use the color green, yellow, and red. It has you can relate it to something called lean manufacturing and production that is connected to the Toyota production system ideas. And these colors can be used to visualize some kind of state, conditions, and result. For instance, if you have a machine in an industrial company that is broken, you can put a red dot. So it shows a state. And this color code can also be combined with emoticons, so representing happy or sad faces. That's also rather common to see. So this is what these participants had at the moment to actually visualize anything about well-being or workload or anything connected to how they perceive their work. So what we did, this, as I said, this study is a part of a larger study. So we already had several types of collaborative methods to understand the user context and to understand information and communication system, to understand the spatial perspectives regarding this information board system that we just saw. So there were a lot of data gathered already before we started this. So we started with a brainstorming session and come up with, we had to define what we mean with workload. And workload could be divided in so many aspects. For instance, do you have enough knowledge to perform your work? Do I feel like I have enough support from my colleagues, and etc. So we had workshops working with those things. And we had also workshops where we were identifying what was on the board at the moment. And there were other things going on. As I said, I'm just showing you a small part of a larger project. So I decided to use mood boards because these are non-designers, and mood boards are you can see it as a collage that are easily created. You don't need to have any pre-skills or specialized tools, and you can make them with scissors, printed magazines and publications, glue, and just some A4 paper. That is just what we did. So we had a workshop where were only 7 of these board coaches, and they were creating mood boards together. And they used just these tools that I mentioned. And they were required to just cut out colors, font, motifs, forms and shapes and style, which they were thinking of when it comes to workload in their work environment, and that it could feel comfortable with to put up on a visual management board in the organization. So these are not the exact copies of their mood boards because there are copyright issues here. So I remade them with materials that I made myself. So this is how the mood board could look like. And what do we do with these simple things? So what the participant did was that they were cutting and pasting things and pasted. They made, a paper each. One of them made 2 papers. And they presented the mood boards afterward to each other, and there were a possibility to have comments and talks about them. So they were explaining their ideas to each other. Why did my mood board look like this? So what I noticed when I used mood boards in this context was that it's rare with in-depth analysis of mood boards in participatory design. It seems like it's just, a simple method. You get a mood board, you look at it, and you see, okay, the participant likes this. Maybe they like the color blue, or maybe they say something about what they prefer. But it's rare with in-depth analyses. And to have an in-depth analysis, you need theory. Otherwise, we could end up with rather shallow interpretation of the participants' contribution. So, and it says also in the literature that analyzing mood board requires interpretation skills. So, but as I said, there are currently a scarcity of scientifically reviewed and published literature regarding in-depth analysis of mood board when it comes to participatory design processes. So, in this study, I actually made a method that is based on, that is inspired by the iconography and semiotic, iconography and semiotic, and also I had interpreted the denotative and connotative aspects of images. And to begin with, each participant in the study, as I said, they created a mood board. They orally described them and explained it to each other, and they talked shortly about it. And then I identified all the visual elements of the mood boards, each by one. And I classified these visual elements to capture the denotative aspects of the mood board, that it's the literal or obvious meaning. And then I counted the frequency. How often did I see, for instance, a picture with a person on, or how often did I see the color green? And there were some elements that were more prevalent than others, and key words were then created for the visual elements that dominated in number. And then I compared this with the audio recordings of the participants' description and explaining of the mood boards. And then I created, based on that, categories. So I categorized all these visual elements and created 5 categories. And based on those categories, I used theories on regarding metaphorical thinking and visual metaphors to try to illuminate the contribution of the non-designer. And afterwards, I have, described each mood board and the different partial meanings. So I will just talk a little bit more about the theories I used. So when you use a theory like theories regarding metaphorical thinking, there are theories to choose of. There are not just one. However, I used a very classical one from Lakoff and Johnson, who have worked with I don't know if you're familiar with the textbook metaphors we live by. And anyway, we can say that metaphors structure our perception, thinking, and doing. And for instance, explaining a disease as attacking the body refers to a war metaphor, demonstrating a structural relationship between the disease and a war. Being happy is being up, sad is being down. It's a kind of an orientational relationship. Physical metaphors are, for instance, that 2 bodies that are close to each other relate intimacy. So there are different types of metaphors we use in language. And these metaphors, if we could identify and analyze the metaphors, we could also maybe identify and analyze the contribution of the participant in this design process. So the mood board content could actually be seen as it visually embodies a diversity of concept, in this case, that we can relate to work-related well-being though. So when I was analyzing this material, this very minimalistic materials, I analyzed so I could find some metaphors of concept regarding work, innovation, development, and collaboration. And I also picked up what kind of pictures or colors that were reflecting metaphors like that. I found metaphors regarding team spirit, enjoyment, and prosperity among individual workers and the department and teams. And also what kind of motifs in the pictures, the colors, the form and shape that were reflecting that. I found also metaphors that of concept that had to do with desire of future work conditions and also work atmospheres. And also the mood board had, their content were reflecting that through the colors, green, yellow, and red and blue, and also separate color schemes and also colors and different images. So what we can see when I did this analysis is that visual metaphors provokes narratives and stories and illuminating the world context. It illuminates the culture and the atmosphere, current situation and wishes and desires for the future. Also core concepts, shapes, color, font and styles and motifs that could be appreciated by the participant. And let's see, I'm on my last picture soon here. So when the participant explained the mood board's visual elements and the disposition to each other, they function as narrators. They told stories regarding wellness and well-being at work. And reoccurring in that story is the importance of cherishing good health, a joyful and collaborative work environment, a sustainable work situation with a strong team spirit. The story is also reflected the desired atmosphere and relate the norms and values. And in this case, the conceptual and visual metaphors and the storyteller could construct also the ethos of the team, the department, and also the organization in itself. And when they explained the mood board's design and the mood board content, the participants expressed their knowledge, experience, emotions, and feelings about well-being at work and workload in particular. And in this way, the participants empathize with each other and others in the work context. And, such an empathic approach is rather relevant to understand the participant also their needs, and also it's rather relevant when encountering each other in a design process and when designing together. And when designing together like this, you create design relationships, which is kind of important for not provoking, but to actually nurturing design dialogue. So what do we learn when applying visual methods such as the creation of mood board in a participatory design process? Well, as I noticed that it's very common, this is my opinion then, my experience is that it's rather common that we use several kind of different participatory design methods. We create things together, but there is not that common that we use theories and go in depth to analyze all small parts or elements of what have been designed together during a process like this. And when we use and to do this analysis, you need theories. And when we do that, we can actually learn so much more from the material. Otherwise, the material seems that made by the participant could not be recognized as much as we wished for. So there is studies, that highlight that participatory design is, striving, especially in a Scandinavian context, participatory design is striving for the democracy and democratization, discussions of values in design and imagined future, and conflicts and contradiction regarding resources in design. That is one of researcher called Jyoti who say that. But I notice also in this study, it reflects aspect of empathy, as we said, with individual work and a theme. It reflects emotions and feelings that are relevant to consider when designing. It reflects self-knowledge. It reflects the current and desired work environment. And it using visual methods like this increase awareness of content that in this case on the boards and their visual appearance. And it also reflects the participants' world of symbol and how they interpreted symbols. And all of this is of relevance when approaching an innovation and design process, and in this case, when we were designing the information visualizations together. So that is what I say. If we should summarize this short speak, I would say that is what I wish for, that we do more in-depth analysis of the material that we collect during the participatory design process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karina. I very much agree with your observational reflection notes. Designers in the co-design process tend to gather so much information, but analyzing them, often we lack theory or more rigorous methods. So in a way, we are wasting a lot of rich data. We didn't go deeper. So how did you, can you share your experience of identifying relevant theoretical or theories to help analyzing participatory data, especially visual and physical?
Yeah, well, thank you for your comments, and I hope I understand your question correctly. I noticed my camera was off, so I'm sorry for that. I didn't know. Well, I was in this case, I mean, when we talk, how do people think, and to think in metaphors, that is one way to say that how our cognitive processes actually work. So, so I will say, to use theories regarding metaphorical thinking, that I think can that I think could give a good nutrition to when we are analyzing the output or input from the participants. And then you need to read a little bit about those theories. But there are other theories also. You can read theories about social materiality, for instance. That is also interesting theories. There are other theories that you can use, but But those are two that I'm a little bit more familiar with at the moment. So, and I have them in my I write a little bit about it in a paper that I just published, so you can read about it there if it could be of any help or inspiration to how to actually go in depth analysis of this material. And there are many ways. This is just one way that I show. So it's not the answer. There are many ways to do it.
Excellent. If I may, I see some links from your talk to an earlier PhD researcher's talk. You know, you both provide materials or you use visual or physical data. So do you have you considered providing materials for people to make mood board or let them to choose their own materials to make it? Would that make a difference?
Yes, I actually think I haven't thought of it, but I think that's an excellent idea. Actually, if we have a project and we let the participants choose the material themselves, that will actually, I think, totally change how at least the visual appearance of the mood boards. But I wonder if it will change how they tell them, how they explain them. That is, I don't know. I guess the metaphorical thinking could still be the same, but we don't know. That we should do more studies about that. I thought it was an excellent idea.
Thank you. Regarding workload, that's also very interesting. I was thinking, using your method, more visual method, to talk about workload, etc. What are the impact? You know, once you've done this, do people appreciate the distribution of workload better? Does that help with workload allocation or people's perception of it?
Well, I haven't told you the rest of the story, so you just saw a small part. What happened in the end of this, story that we had this time together. This was a work that continued for a couple of years. So I took everything, the material I have, and I created some prototype for the participant to actually discuss. And they discussed the prototypes with the teams. And the prototypes, they gave the name flower to it because it looked like a flower, they thought. And a lot of their mood was highlighted things that had to do with nature and elements, natural elements from nature. They also had several, they had a lot of those kind of things that you could connect to your garden or your leisure life. So they adapted those flowers and they implemented them and they started to redo them. And so the boards that you've seen that are so structured and square and very strict, they do not longer look like that. So at the moment I'm there in collecting, we talk about what have happened now afterwards, and the boards are totally changed. They are like small gardens. They don't even, so something have happened, yes. I don't know if they have less workload, but at least they have more fun with these boards that they meet on regular basis.
EU project called Encouraging Citizen Engagement Using Artist-Led Innovation. You can find more information from the web link. Next, please. So the VOICE, this is an acronym of the EU project, started in January this year. It uses a new approach where artists take the lead. They bring together different groups, especially local communities, to solve environmental or ecological problems in their local area. They work together to create green and digital solutions, making the ecosystem stronger and more resilient. Next, please. So the vision of the project is to create a system where everyone's ideas are heard, knowledge is shared, and big changes are made, leading to a fairer and more sustainable future for everyone. The mission is to inspire both ordinary people and industries to think creatively and differently about sustainability issues. The project is relevant to 4 of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. 11, which is about sustainable cities and communities. 12 is responsible consumption and production. And 13 is climate action, and 17 is partnerships for the goals. So this diagram shows the whole 4 pillars of the project. So the first part is about understanding landscape. We are still very much in the first part. The second part is mapping. Third part is capacity building for artists and also communities. The fourth part is artisy, which is a scheme I'm going to explain later for knowledge valorization. Artisy stands for Artist Technology Society Interventions. So there are schemes which involve communities, some digital technology, and also art-driven methods. Within the project, we are going to implement 20 artisy schemes in Europe. Next, please. So this diagram shows all the work packages. Brunel is more responsible for work package 4, but we coordinate and support all the other work packages. So work package 2 is about understanding landscape mapping and community of practice building. Work package 3 is about community of practice expansion and consolidation. Then is work package 4, skills development towards human-centric innovation. And work package 5 and 6 are linked. One is a pilot for the artisy schemes, and the second is more of the implementation of artisy projects in communities. And finally, we are all contributing to the management, coordination, and outreach, dissemination, and sustainability of the project. Next, please. These are the consortium, voice consortium partners. There are 2 UK partners, and the other partners are all from the Europe. Okay, next, please. Today, our very short workshop probably only lasts for 20 minutes. We are going to address the first pillar, understanding landscape, especially about identifying urgent local issues, which will help us to develop briefs for artists in their future artisy schemes. I'm now going to invite Yunshui to introduce what we mean by ecological issues, environmental issues, and we invite all the participants to use chat box effectively to participate. Thank you very much. Yunshui, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Hua, for introducing the Voice project. And yeah, I will introduce the ecological issues and environmental issues. For ecological issues, it is focused especially on ecological systems and the relationships between organisms and their environments. So they emphasize the balance and the sustainability of ecosystems. And that's the differences between ecological issues and environmental issues, because environmental issues always cover a broader range of topics, including both ecological and human-centered concerns. So they address any negative impact on the natural but built environment. So yeah, before we proceed, I'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to think your concerns about eco issues and also environmental issues that you find most pressing in your city or global. You can tap it on the chat box. And yeah, you can type it in this format, city first and the issues that you're concerned. So your ideas are really essential for us to understand diverse perspectives and address the wider range of environmental challenges that we face today. So don't be shy every idea values. Yeah, really keen to hear your voice. So please, can you share your concerns in the chat box?
Please do participate, because some of the participants in the morning, it's very important to involve local communities to identify these issues. We obviously have identified a lot from reading literature and newspapers headlines, but what is in your own view the urgent issues? If you could write down a city and then issues. Yeah, London, water contamination. London, high-rise buildings, flooding. London, noise pollution. West London, noise airport. London, air and noise pollution. Waste recycling. Joe, could you please specify where that is an urgent issue? Light pollution, again, is it possible to specify where? Because we would like to know local communities. London, okay. So London light pollution. Universities in the UK, international students' low awareness and engagement in sustainable behaviors. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for your engagement. So I'd like to share some eco issues that we have identified. So we start with air issues. People cares about air quality and public health, and also London underground system face significant air quality challenges, and also for emission pollution from road traffic, even ULEZ policy are taken in London, the pollution still is severe. ULEZ policy is designed to reduce air pollution by charging vehicles that do not meet the strict emission standards. So we can moving on to water issues. The water pollution is urgent. Also, for the river pollution, the Thames and other rivers in London suffer from urban runoff and sewage overflows. Water quality in recreational, for example, lakes, ponds, and public swimming pools are also very important for public health and biodiversity. So for soil degradation, sustainable farming, urban forestry, green space, urban greening are encouraged, and this is related to the sustainable cities. So about biodiversity issues, it is also crucial. The pollinator protection is encouraged, considering habitat loss, wildlife, conservation. Birmingham has expanded its urban greening initiatives, including the creation of new parks and the green corridors to enhance biodiversity.
Sorry, Chuxuan, can we just stop here? If you can go back to the biodiversity. Now we've identified 4 areas: air, water, soil, and biodiversity. Can the audience please think about these 4 areas to see whether you have any other urgent issues locally relating to air, water, soil, or biodiversity you would like to add. Please still use the chat box and place first, and then category like biodiversity or water or air or soil, and then a specific issue. I'll give you an example in the chat box. So one example can be London biodiversity B-loss. Okay, we don't seem to have comments on this. Let's just move on. Trisha, if you could continue, thank you.
Okay, so when we can come into energy, the investment is increased for encourage using green energy, renewable energy, and clean energy. And also, energy efficiency is very important for industrials to reduce their emissions. And also, sustainable transportation is another vital area. Electric vehicles can reduce emissions from road traffic, and public transport can reduce the number of private vehicles on the road. So yeah, and there are also some green transport are encouraged, like for the cities, the bike friendly is very important. And also for waste issues are important for big city, recycling, zero waste, and circular economy are encouraged for waste management. And for climate change, some climate change action like net zero are promoted. Some extreme weather like flooding, forest fire, extreme heat, earthquakes are also crucial issues, which is concerned by public. So yeah, I hope my sharing is useful. So if you are inspired and find any issues that has been ignored, you can also tap on the chat box. So we're glad to see it. While you're mute.
Yeah, thank you. So one more comments. London public health concentration of pollutants and allergens in the air, temperature sensitive, so climate change might be relevant too. Yeah. Are there any missing issues? Zhuxian has introduced quite a lot of pressing issues identified by, media. We've identified a few in our chat box. Are there any other missing issues you would like to raise? Please use the chat box. And I'm very pleased that Jyoti, our next speaker, has joined. So we have 8 minutes for this session for people to just participate. Maybe Zhuxian, you can go to the last slide and we can have an interaction session towards the end.
Yeah, so then these issues that we identified and the concerns from public and community will help to mapping and then contribute to our voice project brief for artists. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing your ideas. And this is our website. So if you are interested in our project, you can browse our website. Yeah, so.
Yeah, thank you very much, Zhuxian. So you can see we are contributing to the right public concerns, those issues identified by local people. We've already identified some headline issues by published materials, and our own identification and also concerns gathered from the public. We help to map these issues, and that will be informing the design briefs for artists who are going to be involved in those artist technology, science interaction projects. Thank you very much for your contribution. Feel free to continue write down the local issues. Professor Kumar, you are welcome to write down anything which is urgent environmental ecological issues in India. Feel free. We have 5 minutes. We could take some questions from the audience. Feel free to type in or ask questions. Maybe Zhuxian, you can unshare your screen so you can see the comments.
Yeah.
We don't seem to have questions. Professor Kumar, I see you are writing. Yes, let's wait for you to finish it. Thank you. So in India, the pressing issues on the environment due to population density, but more so due to the behavioral patterns of consumerism. How can design target behaviors? That's links to some of those talks very well. If not, I'm very happy for Professor Kumar, if you could test your slide. I will stop recording this session. I'm going to introduce our speaker, Dr. Jyoti Kumar, Associate Professor at the Department of Design, India Institute of Technology, Delhi. Thank you. You may start your talk. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Brunel University, and especially Professor Hua Dong, who is invited for this. And well, I can't see many cameras, so I don't know who's behind the monitors and the speakers, but I guess there are people who are interested in something related to design and research and design. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I work in the broad area of human-computer interaction. And that's where today's talk I decided of sharing. And there are lots of things happening in this area. One thing is that our lives are becoming more and more bombarded with information coming from all shapes and sizes of screens. And as that continues to happen, it has effect on our brain. And designers need to become sort of responsible for it. Become careful about how and when to produce how much information, in what shape. And that's where this whole discipline called usability got into existence, usability of the information systems. Can anybody on this website guess where healthy recipes would be? This is Health Promotion Board of Singapore government. Any guesses? Anybody wants to switch on mic and talk?
The green ones.
Here, the elderly and the adult. Oh, or here, the green one, here, health calendar. Yeah, it's confusing, right? Why does it become confusing when actually there are designers working hard to create information systems which are easy for users? Nobody wants to deliberately make it difficult, correct? But people land up making it difficult for others. And that's where the whole discipline of usability lies. How do we ensure that a designer understands the mental model of the users when creating a design, especially when the design is heavy with information? Unlike a sculpture, which does not challenge your cognitive faculties as much, information expects you to process it, make sense of it, and that is demanding on the users. So making it easy would require designers to do the tough job of understanding what users and where users expect the information to be. In this case, what has happened is the designers have created an information architecture out of the catalogs they had before the website was created. So HPB is Health Promotion Board. And inside e-resources, which are electronic resources, there's something called Healthy Fun, and inside that is Healthy Recipes. And that becomes a puzzle for people. This is what Jacob Nielsen took up in his book, Usability Engineering, and started explaining what are the different factors that will be required for a system to become acceptable, a product to be acceptable. And he outlines that the usefulness of a system has these two aspects, utility and usability. And within usability, we have easy to learn, easy to use, efficient use, easy to remember, and few errors. So we need to create designs which do not cause a lot of cognitive load on users, and that's all of these five. It's like, how does the human brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, that is getting engaged in information processing, is being challenged by the information. Now that has to be assessed. I'll come back to that later. And hence this ISO definition in the International Standard Organization came up with this definition of usability, which says that there is a need to measure the effectiveness, ease of learning, efficiency of use, memorability, and all of this before a system is launched. So many places, life and death matters could be there because somebody is not able to process the information correctly. Or the situation is so tense and stressful that you do not have a lot of cognitive bandwidth to explore and find out. You have to make a decision. And one error could lead to very critical and very expensive results. And therefore, we need to look at how does the brain process information. So broadly speaking, so far what I've talked, let me go back, is that for a system to be acceptable, there are many variables that it has to fulfill. One of them is usability, which basically is about the cognitive load we are causing because of the design. So how do we assess that is the question. Now, so far, typically in the world of HCI designs, we were like looking at the human brain through user behaviors. So we would give a task to the users, put them in a lab, and ask them to complete the task, and then observe how much time they're taking, how many errors they are committing. Then slowly the analysis become a little bit more sophisticated beyond just behavior of how much time taken and how many errors committed. We start looking at, say, blink rates to identify what is the stress level, pupil dilation to identify the cognitive load, and so on. So slowly, the world has started moving into neurophysiological areas or neurophysiological measures to understand the usability of a system. Now, we know that the different lobes of the brain do different work. And therefore, if we are able to see which parts of the brain are firing more neurons and in what pattern, in what frequency, we can have some idea about how much cognitive load we are causing. Am I making sense? I see completely, yeah, it's like I'm talking to the screen. Yeah, please feel free to use the chat. But it's pretty unusual for me to talking to the screen because I don't see any faces or anything. It's quite interesting. Okay, so I guess 10th class biology, our brain is made out of neurons, and these neurons fire whenever we are thinking, and there are neurotransmitters through which the electricity travels, and this is what an EEG tries to capture. So one of the neurophysiological tools is electroencephalography. Oh, thank you so much. I see one camera on. That's useful. So we get a little bit more detailed understanding of how the human brain is responding to information. Post we have designed. So in human-computer interaction, we have a lot of people who do UI UX design, user interface design, which leads to user experiences. Assessment of that is becoming a key criteria, and businesses are concerned about how their UI UX is doing, and hence more detailed studies are being sought, especially when the UI UX affects the brand, the marketing, the USP, and so on. So that's where we in our lab have started using EEG as a tool. This is how our lab looks, and this is the kind of one of the experiments that you see happening, where we are like giving some stimuli, and then we are seeing what kind of electrical voltages are being observed on the surface of the scalp. And based on that, we come to an understanding of how, I mean, if there's something that you would like me to talk a little bit more about, I'll be happy. But I assume that this is something that you all know about. So let me give you a broad idea of what is it that we are doing. So in one of the, yeah, so this is how we apply the gels on the scalp. So it's like the EEG sensors are there on the scalp, and then we use this in a particular situation where the person is going to use sort of like a design, and then we are observing how these neurons are firing, and we get electrical signals. So I guess many of you are designers and design researchers. The accuracy of this data of how much cognitive load is being caused by the design we have created is what we try to measure using the voltage fluctuations that we received on the scale. Did I stop for a question because I don't hear or see anything?
I can ask a question if you like. I'm interested to see what you're doing. How does it compare with fMRI? That's an alternative in a way, isn't it? So what's the advantage of your approach over that approach? Clearly, you can do yours in a mobile way, but there are other things going on. Tell us a little bit about that, how it compares.
Thank you so much. So nice to hear a human voice after just hearing talking to the screen. No, see, so I'm a designer. Okay, I got trained at my bachelor's level as a designer, and then I was in industry for some time doing UI UX designs, and we are looking for methods to assess that our design is effective, that it's working fine, and especially in critical situations. Now, fMRI is functional magnetic resonance imaging, which is being measured when your brain is put inside a chamber in a static situation, ideally with some chemicals running in your bloodstream so that we can see where exactly blood flow is increasing. And that gives a far more accurate understanding of how the brain parts are being used. However, there is a catch. It gives us a good spatial resolution of the brain, but it does not give us the temporal resolution, that is over a period of time, how that is changing. EEG is very good with temporal resolution. Now, nowadays, EEGs are becoming so inexpensive that even designers like us could afford it. I mean, there are EEGs which you can buy for maybe $100 nowadays. And designers have started experimenting with them. And so fMRI is pretty expensive, number one. It requires you to be in one position, one situation, and you're probably sleeping inside that chamber, and which is not very practical for a designer, because then you cannot give your design as a stimuli and ask the users to do the experiment, do the tasks, and observe how the brain is reacting. But fMRI has higher spatial resolution, and the EEG has better temporal resolution. That's where the trade-off is.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. It's good.
I have a question as well. So thanks for your presentation. I see, like, from this slide specifically, many data. I was just wondering how you interpret and analyze them. How do you link them to your study and interactions?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So that's where the main challenge lies. Like nowadays, getting a few sensors and collecting the voltage fluctuations from the scalp is very easy. The difficult part is when we have all of this data and we have to interpret it in the context of our research. So what is it that we are trying to look for? That's where the question will begin. Okay. So as you can see, there are certain kinds of frequencies that you observe in a certain state of the mind. So when the mind is very active, you get beta frequency, which is a certain bandwidth. Okay. Now, say suppose I give you a task. I ask you to memorize 349 into 436, whatever the number it is. Okay. And as you start working, this part of the brain will become very active and the beta frequency will increase. If I have all these sensors and I'm getting this data, I'll take out this part of the information from this part of the brain, and then I start analyzing that whether beta increased or not, and to what extent did it increase. So if it increased by a large margin, it means the task was difficult for you cognitively. And if it was very easy, then alpha will dominate, which is like, you're pretty much relaxed. You're listening to music and stuff. So one kind of research we do in our lab also is, when I give music along with the task, what happens to the brain? Or when I show nature, then what happens to the brain? And we have published a few papers related to how biophilic stimuli make the brain more efficient and you're able to do tasks better. I don't know whether I answered your question or confused you further.
No, thank you. Yes, was clear.
Of course, I'm speaking at a very broad level. When we actually do the analysis, then we'll bring many more parameters and there'll be a lot of filtering of the data. Good thing is nowadays we have softwares which helps us do this. And these companies are making it easier to use. Earlier we had to go through this entire, on the left side, like medical science have been using EEG for a very, very long time to understand seizures and any anomalies and thinking processes of people, brain diseases and other places. Okay. Recently, because these systems have become inexpensive relatively and more easily available, and researchers are being allowed to use, that there are newer possibilities emerging. And I guess we are perhaps one of the first ones in the world to try using it and see. Even in aesthetics, we tried it. We gave sensitive people some stimuli and aesthetically sensitive people, in the sense people who are artists. And then we also gave this to people who are not so sensitive. And then we were looking at how does the brain respond. And luckily, we got some very nice patents, which we went ahead and published. These are the opportunities which is emerging with the with looking at the brain per se of my user, my consumers of our designs.
Okay, thank you. There is a question from the chat box from Fabrizio. He said, thanks a lot, very interesting. What is the state of the art regarding reliability and validity of... Fabrizio is here, maybe you can say it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Really very interesting. I'm just interested in the distinctions like between controlled environments where you test, you use a testing, for example, and in the real environment, the operational settings or the real settings. So what is the state of the art in terms of reliability and validity of all these metrics, user experience metrics, in extrapolated to the real settings, or maybe somehow estimated in the real setting?
Thank you. It's a very deep question. I don't think I can do justice in such a short time, but let me make an attempt, at least to broadly cover it. So, dear Federico, what you're asking is reliability and validity of the UX testing per se, not just related to one situation or one stimuli, but broadly. And hence, there's a whole spectrum. First thing I would like to, when I do these kind of consulting for usability testing, first thing I ask is, tell me how critical this task is. If this task is $1 million task upon which the brand rests, and if the task fails, then the brand would undergo a lot of dent, then I would look for deeper reliability and validity. And I use triangulation methods, not just one source of data, but multiple sources of data. For example, I'll use think it out usability testing combined with neurophysiological data and maybe do a retrospective. And that gives me a very high reliability and validity, because the behavioral observations of errors or difficulties that I'm finding are being triangulated from multiple. But that's the higher level. But generally speaking, neurophysiological data have very high levels of reliability and validity. Unlike behavioral observations or qualitative data, because there is very little opportunity for us to bias the users. I've given a task to the brain, and the brain is busy doing it. And as long as the person is trying to do the task, all the data I'm getting is highly reliable, because there's no other source of contamination of data. And that's where I started moving from, because I'm traditionally a qualitative researcher. I do a lot of field study. But I started feeling that bottleneck, that when I'm trying to assess the cognitive load of a design, how do I know that if this user took, say, 3.5 minutes and blinked thrice, that this person was actually struggling to make sense of the website or my design? Whereas the neurophysiological, once triangulated, it gives me a confirmation. And of course, one source is EEG. The other sources we use uses the eye tracker with the pupil dilation. So that gives me some triangulation. Then we get the skin conductance, the GSR, galvanic skin response. And with these three and the behavioral observation, I think reliability goes very high.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Just one observation from, we did once have a student project at Brunel some years ago where people were using alpha wave detection to drive a video game. So it was like a video ping pong, and all just from observing different users using that technique, there seemed to be a great deal of variation between individuals in their ability to actually control and influence their wave patterns. So is that an issue for you? Some people were quite good at it. They could really play good video table tennis by manipulating their patterns, and others couldn't do it at all. So does that affect what you're doing?
So David, what you're talking about is brain-computer interfacing. In brain-computer interfacing, the individual variations would affect the outcome, because these patterns do differ from individuals to individuals. And there's some people who go into meditation, they move into, more emotional control, more, voluntarily they can widen their mind and focus and attend. So those capacities differ from individual to individual. In that sense, brain-computer interface would get affected by that individual variation. But here, I am only looking at assessment of how good a design is from a cognitive perspective, and the individual variations are not influencing as much, because in the beginning, when I do a baseline task, I get to know how agitated or relaxed the person is. And then with that baseline, when I'm giving the task, I get to know how much increase has happened. And especially in critical tasks like driving and getting disturbed by a call from your friend, and then what are the chances of something happening on the road because you didn't have enough cognitive bandwidth available to take care on the road. I mean, kind of. So those take care of these individual variations because of the baseline.
Good, right. Thank you very much. Yeah, I find it very interesting, and perhaps it might inspire some people at Brunel to try to do some EEG work. In fact, Federico, who's a specialist in machine learning, perhaps you might be interested in doing it, because you could possibly use some of your techniques with these sort of sensors.
That would be a nice one. I have a small project running on EEG in relation to sleep data. So that's one thing I'm interested in. But yeah, we should probably have a conversation offline. Very wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we should look at some cross-cultural variations if there are any.
Jyoti, it's very interesting to hear you admitted you were more of a qualitative researcher, and now you are using a lot of more quantitative method. Can you share your experience of using both methods? What, have your research been enriched by using the current methods?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think you are yourself a very, very, established researcher in design and design thinking, and the challenges we have with user-centric thinking in design involved with research, because we're dealing with a human being, and human beings are very difficult to understand and make sense of. Of course, I, as another human being, can use my empathy and myself as an apparatus, as a sensor in which I'm collecting data from another user. But as a human being, when you're trying to understand the other human being, and I ask a few questions, and I observe their behaviors, and I observe their facial expressions, it's good in certain cases. It's good when I want to know what kind of solution will work for this user. And I'm sort of putting a little bit of my imagination along with my observations and coming out with a solution or design. But when it comes to testing, and I want accuracy in my result, like how likely navigation design option A versus navigation design option B in a running car would fare on a busy road, then I have a difficulty sitting down with a person and conducting an interview or observing behavior, because many times this is so lower brain activity that one is not even aware of it to talk about it. So first to become aware and then to verbalize. And that's where the behavioral observations, and then a little bit more granular is the neurophysiological observations, I think becomes more useful. And when I couple the two together, like myself observing and also giving tasks, then my that reliability and validity thing that Federico was asking becomes, to me, easier, especially when I have a client. I mean, because I work a lot with corporate in India, and that guy is not listening to my suggestions. I'm sorry, it's being recorded. But then I have this data to show, you see, it's actually like this. I know this is your pet design, this is what you like, but it's not working. That's where it becomes very useful to me.
Yeah, thank you. I think Federico asked about this experimental environment. Once you wear something, you are aware, you are observed, you are doing the experiment. So you are not necessarily always perform as naturally. So that is an experimental factor. How do you, overcome these experimental effects on the participants?
So this is a standard question where my usability class here begins, because this is something that often comes up. Being a human being, I have observed that we enjoy movies, we enjoy stories. It's because our imagination allows us to immerse in a certain context and forget about where we are. And for some time, we forget this movie is not real. Now, whenever we do any kind of a user-based testing in HCI, we use this method of persona, scenario, task, narration. So it's like, we know he's or she's the persona who's going to do this task in a certain scenario. So we make that scenario very vivid and rich. And we do that storytelling, like creating a movie. Imagine it's Friday evening, and you just came back from office and you got to know Monday's off. And this is the website that your friend recommended is giving this off, etc., etc. How would you go about doing it, right? And as they start doing, they forget that it's actually a lab environment. They start thinking, yes, Monday's off, I'm going to go, I have a free ticket, I'm going to do, and they start booking. We get very realistic data. That's where the whole of the user testing is pegged on.
Interesting. How long does it take for people to forget about and then immerse?
It depends on how much of drama we create as a researcher. But see, the role of the researcher, I mean, ideal word would be facilitator. Facilitator in the user test is very critical, therefore, of how we debrief, how do you introduce, how do you, calm down the participant, make them sit, narrate them scenario, that personal engagement. And that's where the qualitative aspect, as Professor Hua yourself know, becomes important. So hence this researcher has to be aware of this interpersonal dynamics and how do you make someone imagine that situation realistically.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting interaction session. Thanks a lot. I think we need to move to the next speaker. Thank you, Jyoti. And I'm going to stop recording this session.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction and for the kind invitation to speak and to present today. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, and hopefully this is coming through okay for you. So as Professor Hua kindly just made the introduction, I'm going to be talking to you today about the elevated role of design. And within this theme of design research, I thought I would take the opportunity just to, you could say, almost have a conversation with you, to share with you a lens, an insight into some work that I'm doing within industry, within this theme of applying design research and this idea and concept of the elevated role of design. At 3M, I'm responsible for strategy and strategic operations. So this includes research and development management systems and support for the organization. This includes the frameworks and processes for how we research, how we innovate, how we transfer our technology into the businesses, into the hands of our customers. So new technology introduction, also to support very much portfolio management, portfolio development, and then the creative collaboration that is necessary for having innovation impact. And design is really key and is central to all of this. And this is also my background in my training as a designer. So I'm a chartered engineer, a chartered technical product designer, and also have my training in industrial product design, as well as my PhD in design, complex systems and human factors. So very much a focus on design, and a little bit of background there about myself as well. And also, as Juan mentioned, I'm a visiting professor at Brunel, which is a fantastic experience that I'm very grateful to be able to do and to support the university. So this elevated role of design, I'm going to build some context around this area for you as well within the context of the organization. So 3M, this is a company that has been around for over 100 years, over a century of bold innovation, and this is across 3 large business groups, 3 large areas. This is for safety and industrial, transportation and electronics, and then consumer. And each of these focus on different, you might say, markets, also applications within each of those business groups, from personal safety here within our safety and industrial business group, so personal protective equipment, respirators, support for people in healthcare, in industrial markets, also the tapes and adhesives that many of you come into contact with every day, whether that is in a industrial environment, in consumer, or again healthcare, and the abrasives. And you can see some of the other areas, electrical markets, all across the top of our safety and industrial business group. And then you have transportation as well, and electronics. So a very diverse portfolio that in itself is a design challenge. So we sometimes talk about designing the function of design and designing the function. So we not only are we solving customer challenges, trying to create customer value, we have to make sure that we apply the thinking to ourselves and we design the organization as well. So here in TEBG, as we call it, Transport, Electronics and Business Group, we have the other markets and applications, and then one that perhaps most people are familiar with, the consumer business group. So this is where Post-it note lives, Command adhesive, Scotch-Brite, and these kinds of products that you typically see when you go into the local shops and the local store. The organization that is as itself is across these 3 business groups. We have over 60,000 people within the organization, and sometimes I think it doesn't often get highlighted, and we should highlight this more, that it's not only about the design, but it's also the execution of the solution and how the solution is produced, and the ability to make many of our technologies and our products is really a key differentiator. It is one thing, and certainly something that designers need to consider as part of their training and their development, is not only can you create the visualization, but have you thought about designing for scale, designing for impact? And this is all part of the role of design. When it comes to 3M innovation, it is of course a challenge to talk about how is this done when you have an organization that is that diverse, and how can this be explained in a way that's useful for others to maybe look at, to learn from, to adopt. You go too high in detail, it's not very helpful. You go too abstract or maybe too detailed, then it's not broadly relevant or broadly applicable. But often we talk about these three areas, and it's really having our technology platform, so developing our fundamental technology capabilities in the top right-hand corner. We have 49 technology platforms, as we call them. This is the 3M science. And then we have the insights. And insights, the image on the left-hand side might suggest this is coming from, let's say, the research or the science. But these are insights coming from the people, from our observations of people, our understanding of people and the planet, and through the research, the design research that we do when we're working with customers, when we're working with partners and with ourselves. I say ourselves because of the size of the organization. We have to have a good internal open innovation model as well as external. This is to some extent a key differentiator for us, and this speaks to the next point around collaborative culture. I sometimes talk about collaborative culture as the engagement model. You can have innovation capacity, so you can have all of the building blocks that are necessary for innovation. It doesn't mean that you can innovate. You can have all the ingredients for a fantastic meal. This doesn't mean you're going to produce a fantastic meal. You have to have the innovation capacity, but you have to have the innovation capability. And for me, I think of innovation capability quite often as design. Even if you're working in the fundamental science, research development, you're still integrating elements. You're still considering the needs, the challenges. You're still designing your experiment. So this engagement model, I think, is really key and a differentiator for organizations, for universities, for individuals that want to innovate and innovate differently. So these three areas, you could also imagine, I'm sure, how this starts to link to the design thinking, Venn diagram of people, technology, and business viability. And you can see how this could match as well. For me, they all really rely on good design. If design is this intentional transformation of something to improve a situation, and then you have design, you have the designer, you have the design process, you have the design representation, maybe it's a design drawing or a detail, you have the embodiment of your vision, of your ideas, and then you have the situation that you're transforming. This is also design, and then the impact of the design, and they can all have their own definitions, so this can be very difficult. But really, whichever way you slice or dice the discovery, the creation, the realization of value, and the delivery of the value, design. Design sits as part of it, underneath it, as part of the core culture. Here I'm going to share with you a presentation, a video presentation. I hope the audio works. So maybe Professor Hua, if you could let me know if this doesn't work. What this is doing is introducing a little bit more about the organization, but what I like about this is it talks to us about the scientific method, the research method, and then I'm going to build on that with the next part of my presentation. Okay, so what you saw there, and hopefully you spotted the stages of the research or a research method. And I was delighted to see that video myself, that it started with the question, not necessarily the hypothesis. You can argue to some extent they are related. Of course, they're similar. Maybe some people would say they are the same. But when it comes to design and being a designer, we're often given, let's say, a brief. You know, somebody is saying, okay, here are some requirements. The first thing I certainly do is challenge the brief, is ask that question, well, why? You know, because it may be that the solution can be delivered in a different way. It may be that it can be overcome differently, and asking why and pushing ourselves to work pre-hypothesis, I think, is really important. And I will share with you, being part of a large, very much a scientific, science-led organization, of course, vision-led, customer-led in terms of the value we deliver, but the technology and the way that we create the technology, it can be challenging to have a difference of vocabulary for design research, the more scientific, let's say, traditional scientific method. And I have found personally it's very useful to be able to say, let's work pre-hypothesis for a moment. To be able to say that, to be able to use that language, suddenly people, oh, I understand. This is not only an awkward conversation or a resistance, you know, because designers, sometimes if you're saying why, this can be frustrating for people. And I certainly remember one of my first design teachers would do this non-stop every lesson, and the whole class, we would always get so frustrated. Oh my gosh, why is this person always saying why? Everything is why, you know. And I'm so pleased that they did. So I think with design research, we often work pre-hypothesis, and if you're not, then it's a good thing to do to make that challenge. And then to say that it starts really with immersion. It starts with immersing yourself in the situation that you want to improve. There's observation, there's this reflexive practice, this kind of real-time learning, understanding. And something I find very helpful when I'm thinking about design or explaining it to others is this idea of design research methods using solution conjecture, you know, throwing an idea out there rather than trying to understand the nature of what something is by simply looking at it. Maybe make some changes, change something in the situation, because then you can reveal the nature of the situation you're trying to improve, to know then what's true, and to know what's true and what might be a viable transformation. I use some of this language as well. I'm inspired by the idea of soft systems and soft systems methodology. And in soft systems methodology, the framework talks about observing purposeful activity models. And you're observing a situation, you're looking for purposeful transformations. And I'm also then perhaps converting that language to say, what are your viable activity models? What are your generative future activity models, models of the future activity that could be true? And this is very important, I think, for the designer to be able to do. And I would like for designers increasingly to embrace this, to help communicate this in industry and in the world, because it can be very difficult. I will say, when we learn through craft, when we learn through doing, which is a great way to learn, it can sometimes be difficult to know yourself. What is it that I did? I did a project, I got top marks. Why? What was good about my project? How can I recreate this next time? And unless we have that reflection, we really don't often know. So what I'm offering up here now is I'm starting to move into a very high level example of a framework that you can use. It's a framework that I use. So this is not, yes, there's some theoretical components here, but certainly this is something that I apply. And to know that, first of all, the hypothesis is only as good as the question. and the questions are only as good as the perspective that we have. And designers, you know, I'm excited for design. Designers are trained to structure situations of uncertainty, and uncertainty is a key, let's say, property of innovation. If you're innovating, you're creating something new, you're creating new value. And of all the professions, designers are very well equipped to lead in this area, not only to lead in the more traditional sense of creating a three-dimensional artifact or a new user interface, but to lead in terms of what is the right direction. How should we be approaching this for the future? So I have this wheel on the left-hand side, and to some extent, you could start with knowing where to focus. You could argue you don't know where to focus at the beginning. If you did, the whole point is it's new, it's uncertain, it's fuzzy. But then you have to structure the unstructured situation. You have to tame it. And then designers are, again, fantastic to envision the future, envision potential solutions, then go on to solve those solutions. When you start to move more into the, let's say, commercialization side of this, then you'll hear people will talk about roadmaps, technology roadmaps. A portfolio approach is slightly different in that it's multiple roadmaps, all with interdependencies on each other. So you have, we sometimes describe these as bets, because it's a bet. Nobody's really quite sure how things will work out. But you can place these bets across a portfolio, and you're seeing this grid, it's effectively a 3x3 grid, and you can have your bets that are placed over time. So time horizon 1, time horizon 2, time horizon 3, or maybe, generation 1, generation 2, generation 3. And then you have the vertical axis, which is often around the type of innovation. So people will talk about efficiency innovation. So how can we be a more efficient? How can we improve the efficiency of our products? How can we improve the efficiency of our organization? Then you have, how do you take what you already have into new spaces, into new markets? How do you then create completely new markets with your technology? And encouraging this kind of thinking. And again, this is when designers can really come in to join the dots, because you can have a portfolio of generation 1, generation 2, generation 3 products, but generation 2 can lay the foundations maybe for a new market. Maybe that in the future you want to take your whatever it might be, your coffee machine, into a different market, a different way of maybe central heating. Who knows? Heating the water. Are there technologies that are transferable from one product to another product? So it's not just about generation 1, 2, 3 in a linear way. It's about how do you enable and have a technology platform. And again, this is a different topic, but technology platform versus product platform. The technology, we, for example, develop our glass bubbles for lightweighting that can go into and other applications. These can go into adhesives. These can go into making concrete float. Totally different applications. But it's a whole field, let's say, in itself, this portfolio piece, but very important. And once you know what your portfolio is striving to look like, you then activate the ecosystem. This is internally and externally. This is about realizing that you cannot always do these things by yourself. Even if you're a large organization, or you're a startup, or you're an individual entrepreneur, you need to think about the whole picture and then the engagement you're going to have to bring it to life. So I describe this, let's say, design approach, or this design function, as action-oriented sense making. So you're in a situation, you're trying to make sense of a situation. You're not just making sense of a situation for fun. I mean, sometimes it is fun, but there's a paper I often think about that was written by Paul Dorish in 2006. And the title of the paper is called Implications for Design. And he was describing this frustration of research observations of a situation And then usually this small summary at the back of the research report that would be called implications for design. And so much of the rich value of the insights and the observations have been lost. They've been lost from the field back to the design teams. So if you can get this balance and make this link, you have this real-time reflexive design practice that we do as designers, and we don't always know that we're doing it. And I'm sure you're familiar. If not, it's worth looking into silent design. This idea of there are people practicing the design that don't even realize they're doing design, and there are designers doing design that can't tell you how they're doing it. This doesn't help us. So I'm trying to illuminate perhaps what's right in front of our noses sometimes, is this action-oriented sense making, how to structure situations of uncertainty. And how, for example, am I doing this right now in my current role? We work our way backwards from the future that we want to create. We work our way backwards from the challenges that we want to overcome. And this really starts by understanding the needs, the requirements. And then we look at those needs and the requirements through, well, what can we do? This starts to ground you more in the reality of, okay, we are an organization, we're a single organization, we have 3 business groups, we have these capabilities. How then can we support and work to solve these future needs? And you're seeing from right to left. So we go from understanding the needs, look at it through the organizational lens of our 3 business groups, and then also to then think about the technologies that we plan to create, whether they're going into these new markets or existing markets. Then you set up your portfolio of bets. So here are the bets we're going to make. This is how we're going to activate our ecosystem to then innovate. So the strategic framework that I've just described to you, you can adapt this, you can use it for yourselves. And some of the outcomes that we certainly end up having in terms of the guidance that comes from it, you end up with priorities. What are those priorities? We can have a better understanding of what needs to be done. Where should we invest? What technology development should we pursue? Also, have you got the right organizational design and the right processes and practice in place for the different types of innovation initiatives that you have? What about your ecosystem? You know, activating that, engaging with partners, the investments that you make, and the talent that you recruit, and how you develop your teams. And on the right-hand side, I'm proposing or giving some examples where I've used this framework, and so have others within the organization. It's been used in strategic planning. This is design research, design front-end, early-stage design research methods being applied for strategy to lead an organization, not necessarily to create a 3-dimensional product or a user interface. And of course, I know I'm talking to people that are highly qualified in this area. So it's perhaps for this audience, but really for the broader audience or the audience that we need to be speaking to, that we can use these approaches for strategic planning. We have applied this to optimize factory processes. We have used it to partner with customers. There are a number of new businesses that I can think of that we created from using these approaches. I have seen people use them for personal development. I ran a small foresighting team a number of years ago to look at these foresights and futures, again, applying this same framework. Boost stands for brainstorm on one single topic. When there is kind of a real issue that needs immediate attention, everybody gets together, we get into a room, maybe online as well, and we solve some challenges. And you can use it to build on concepts, and certainly for a large organization, but for any organization, you have to make sure you have a healthy pipeline. It's not just about what you're working on today. And design research methods at the front end can be used to fill that pipeline and to build it as well. So I'm sharing here with you, these are, I'll say, my own observations. So, you know, I've often come across that there were maybe three approaches to strategy. So sometimes traditionally, or traditionally is maybe the wrong word, but let's say an easy option is to start from where you are, and that feels like it makes sense. Hey, let's start from where we are, not from where we want to be. Well, maybe not. Maybe you do need to start from where you want to be and work your way backwards. So if you're starting from where you are, then yes, you can look at your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats from where you are today. I think there is a risk of getting more of what you already have if you're not careful. Maybe you want more of what you already have. That's also, and that's fine. The middle example shows that you can work your way backwards from the needs to then work out what initiatives, what steps you need to take to then build forward. There's a risk here that it becomes too broad. You know, people, one of the kind of difficult statements that can be made with design research is let's not boil the ocean. You know, I'm sure we've all heard that expression. It's like, oh my goodness, how do we respond now to this? So the middle one risks, you know, too broad. Whereas the one on the right hand side is this idea that yes, work your way backwards, but view it through the lens of the organization. What are your capabilities? How is this strategically aligned? Of course, you can apply other frameworks like PESTLE, you know, PESTLE, so there's political, environmental, social, technical, legal, economic. What are the your observations in those spaces? What are the shifts you expect to see in the future in those spaces? And this is, I have found this helpful because sometimes, you know, ask that question, where do you start? How do you even know where to start? So there's this exercise really saying the same thing, but in maybe different ways. You start on the left here, you immerse yourself, you jump into the pool. You immerse yourself, you represent the situation you're seeing, you apply some creative thinking, and eureka, it's as easy as that. If only it was as easy as that. But nevertheless, it's a framework that you can use, you can adapt, you can make it your own. The takeaway message I want to leave with you is that really the elevated role of design can be applied at the leadership levels. It should be applied at the leadership levels. You as designers and the designers that you support and teach and communicate with, I want to elevate those. And then also to know that design is really very well positioned to work with this kind of uncertainty that is a key property, let's say, of innovation, and then having how this can be done in large organizations. So you can have a little think about where are you on the design ladder. I'm sure many of you have seen this before. Are you in step one? Are you design as form giving, maybe design for process, and then design as strategy? And I say this to myself, you know, to remember there's probably a question before the question you're currently asking, and no question before that. That's equally as important. You know, going out, giving yourself permission to be curious, to observe, to listen, to sense, to detect, and then using that to build into your design research. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, David.
Hi, thank you very much. It's a very interesting talk, and it sort of resonates with me a bit because I've been involved with a government funding project on a circular economy in metals. And as the design element in that, we've been asked to really envision the future in 2050 in terms of the circular economy in metals. So we've had some similar sort of processes to the things we've been talking about. But my question to you was really, within 3M, are there examples, or I know that you can't necessarily talk about many of the things you're doing, but examples within your operation where you've been thinking about more reuse or remanufacturing opportunities for metals within the sectors that you operate? Is there something you can tell us a little bit about that? Or is it something you thought about? It'd be very interesting to hear about that.
Yes, yeah, I think absolutely. It is something that we not only think about but do. We've had a program. I hope I'm going to remember this correctly. Program that dates back to the 70s, you know, that talks about pollution prevention pays was the thing at the time, the theme at the time, and of course this is more than pollution. But the point is that it's around sustainability, sustainable design. So yes, it's something that we absolutely focus on. It's core, really core to what we do. All of our programs who have an expectation that is part of our consideration. In terms of the details, there's a limited amount that I would personally be able to go into, also not knowing all of the details as well. So.
All right, okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ben, for the, I think it's excellent talk towards the end. It makes everybody think the design's role. I would like to thank all the speakers and all the participants for your, support to the Brunel Research Festival. And I really think the talks are excellent. They come from different angles. There's sufficient discussion and triggers a lot of probably thinking and also potential collaboration for the future. So I do hope we will continue these kind of conversations in the future through the forums or other formats. So do connect with us for collaboration. Thank you very much.